It is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, standing in for my old friend Mike Graham, and I will be your host for 4 hours of breaking news, challenging views and dynamic debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, October the 27th. Here's what's coming up. So far, just one hapless individual seems to be carrying the can for the prison release fiasco that saw Britain's best-known asylum seeker sex offender let out of Chelmsford jail to roam the streets for 3 disastrously dangerous days. As of now, one idiot prison worker has been suspended. Who else is going to take the blame, though? How about sacking the prison governor, Mark Howard, who is clearly running an utter shambles of an amateur hour operation? Should Mr. Howard be handed his P45? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. How about the ministers in charge? Prison Minister James Timpson and Justice Secretary David Lammy. Shouldn't they take responsibility? Shouldn't they be punished after this absolute catastrophe, this excruciating embarrassment? Surely there must be accountability. 0344 499 1000. If people don't take a hit after screwing up, they'll screw up again and again. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the cops ludicrously launching a festival of backslapping over the allegedly diligent police search, as if they weren't just lucky that 2 women spotted Ethiopian sex fiend Hadush Kabatu standing at a North London bus stop at 8:30 yesterday morning. Now the government says he's going to be deported, possibly as early as tomorrow. But what happens to him back in Ethiopia? Does he just walk free? If so, That's not what I'd call satisfactory. Would you? 03444991000. In other news, the world's most loathsome couple, Andy and Fergie, are reported to finally be ready to quit their grotesquely vast 30-room Windsor Palace in the Royal Lodge, but only on condition they're given 2 grand houses as a replacement, Frogmore Cottage and Adelaide House, where Harry and William used to live, or William still lives in Adelaide House. He's about to move. How about a council flat for Fergie and Andy in somewhere like Sunderland? Isn't it about time this preposterous pair of venal grifters were cast out of their lives of undeserved privilege and told they're on their own? 03444991000. Also today, the continuing storm over the rape gang inquiry that never was, that now seems destined not to happen until at least next year. Critics say that privately, Two-Tier Keir hopes the investigation into Britain's worst ever sex scandal never gets started. If true, shame on him. 03444991000. Plus, a devastating parliamentary report has slammed hopeless Home Office staff for wasting billions on migrant hotels and doing nothing to assess the impact of hundreds of asylum seekers on stunned local communities. What a mess. 03444991000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday morning together. In the studio, I've got writer, broadcaster, journalist Emma Wolf. We're going to go through the papers. Morning, Emma. I just want to say a few words. There's an elephant in the room, isn't there? Mike's not here. Mike Graham is still on leave while a Facebook post posted on his Facebook page is being investigated. Until then, until the conclusion of that investigation, you've got to understand, we just have to wait. But this is his show. I'm doing Mike's show. Okay. All the best to everybody. Right. Well, let's clear the air. You got that? Okay. So let's do the best show we can, and let's get started. Well, Emma, let's do the papers. We're going to go through the papers, of course, first. I'm going to do that. How's that? It's a bit better, isn't it? Sort of my microphone rubbing up against my shirts there. Great start. Right, seriously, let's do the papers. Obviously we're going to get on to the missing migrant, the guy who inadvertently got let out of Chelmsford Prison on Friday. We'll move on to that soon, but we're going to go do the papers first. And the first story we've got is a very strong story. It's in most of the papers, but the Mail's gone big on it. It is billions wasted on hotels for migrants. This is a report, a parliamentary report, which accuses Home Office staff of squandering billions of pounds on asylum seeker hotels and presiding over a kind of incompetence, handling a failed, chaotic, expensive system. There was a manifest failure by this department to get a grip on contracts with the private companies it appointed to house asylum seekers. These are companies like Serco, which have been making an absolute fortune. And the other element of this report, Emma, is that the staff are absolutely slammed for not making any effort when they decide where an asylum seeker hotel is going to be, to do an impact assessment on the local community. And we know the results of that have been catastrophic. As things stand, we've got about 103,000 asylum seekers being funded, paid for by us, taxpayers around the country. 32,000 of them are in hotels. The Home Office released some pompous statements. Oh, we're clearing out all the hotels. Yes, we're going to reduce the number of hotels. Yeah, if they're so keen on reducing the number of asylum seeker hotels, how come about a month ago, wasn't it, when maybe a little bit longer, when the people of Epping succeeded in getting their asylum seeker hotel, the Bell Hotel, from where our friend
Kabatu
was, well, that's where he committed his offences. So they succeeded at the High Court of getting that hotel closed down. Now the government, who say we're committed to reducing the number of asylum seekers. If they're so committed to reducing the number of asylum seeker hotels, why was it after the people of Epping won that court case that the government went to court, appealed, and got the damn thing reopened again? Doesn't really project the right picture, does it?
No, it doesn't. And why is it that, for example, the Thistle Hotel near me in Clerkenwell, why is it there are still 3 full-time security guards outside that? Why is it? And I don't care, this thing of this obsession with we're going to reduce the number of migrants in hotels, which is a very expensive way to house people. Yeah. So why is it we've had 60,000 illegal boat crossings since Labour came in? Where are they going? Yeah, you can move people out of hotels, then you put them in dispersal accommodation, which is basically council homes. Do we want to be spending £15 billion on this? Do the British... This is all taxpayer funded. In a way, you're moving chess around the blooming chessboard. You know, if they're not in hotels, they're somewhere else. Yes, the government are desperate to close down the migrant hotels. They are desperate to do that because that has become the media focus, that's become the focus of protests and demos, and it's a very visible place that migrants are being housed. So they want to move them quietly out of hotels into council homes, basically. Well, people don't want them in this country. Why are they not processing people and getting rid of people who have crossed illegally, don't have a valid claim, shouldn't be in this country?
Yeah, I mean...
We're paying for it whichever way.
Exactly right. But, you know, this we're going to reduce the number of migrants staying in asylum seeker hotels. I mean, it strikes me it's just a sort of chorus that they say. They're not actually doing it. They're actually commandeering more hotels as we speak. Yeah. As I say, when the people of Essex managed... through the High Court to get their local asylum seeker hotel closed down, the Bell Hotel, where at least one of the residents committed 2 sex assaults on local women, one of them 14 years old, the other one a woman who went to help her. When they got their hotel closed down, the government went to court, appealed, and got it reopened. So they're saying they want to reduce the number of asylum seeker hotels, but in reality they're commandeering more, and they show no signs of actually genuinely being committed to that course of action. And as you say, they keep on coming in legally and illegally. We have to put them somewhere, I suppose, and the hotels will continue. In the end, though, Emma, as you're indicating, you know, hotels or what do they call them? Houses of multiple occupation.
Yeah, HMOs, dispersal, wherever.
Yeah, in the end...
In the end, we're paying for it all.
Yeah.
And we don't have 15 billion to pay for this.
But the government, though, I agree with you totally, the costs are off the scale. The government seems to have taken the position that as long as they can get these asylum seekers out of hotels and into houses of multiple occupation, in other words, next to you on your street, that then we'll go, oh, well, now you've got them out of the hotels, no problem. No. We don't really want them anywhere.
That's the thing. And you know, I know that doesn't sound right, but the thing is, for someone like Clerkenwell, the Barbican, that area, where I'm talking about, it has had a profound... You talk about the impact on local communities. It's had a profound impact on kids playing out, on young girls playing out in the paddling pool in the park nearby, on people, on younger women, on women walking home at night, on the local businesses, the local areas, the local pizza place, which says we don't want people, hundreds and hundreds of Deliveroo bikes strewn all over the street from these guys who are coming over, and I'm afraid, working illegally. You know, it doesn't suddenly appear. You don't suddenly have 200 Deliveroo bikes strewn outside this hotel. Permanent security staff outside this hotel. And yeah, the government wants to do it quietly. If I was a hotel owner, you know, it's obviously a very lucrative way. The Bell obviously made the calculation. I don't think any tourist will ever stay there again, but they've obviously made some kind of calculation that it's lucrative for them to take on one of these contracts, one of these government contracts, where you can absolutely rinse the taxpayer £145 a night. I'm wondering whether it might be a good option for Fergie and Andrew, actually, as you say. £145 a night
give them
to keep them in a hotel.
House of multiple occupation. How about
so it cost us 6 times more to put a migrant in a hotel per night than it does in the cost of rented housing. But actually, Kevin, we're not dealing with the problem, which is we don't need hundreds of thousands of people coming to this country and putting them up at the taxpayer's expense. We don't have that money. All we ever hear about is the black hole.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we seem to, just keep letting people in, keep letting them cross the channel illegally, I mean, I suppose does give us some responsibility to put them somewhere. But what the people of this country...
No, that's the responsibility of Shabana Mahmood and Yvette Cooper and everybody in charge of the Home Office who have absolutely failed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they've got to put them somewhere, but what the people want is for them to stop coming. We want the drawbridge pulled up. This is getting ridiculous. Yeah, you're right. Of course it's Shabana Mahmood, Yvette Cooper, all the Tories. I mean, this is getting worse and worse and worse. We are now at the point where we're dealing with, 15 years of absolute governmental dysfunctional disaster on this entire issue.
And the government, the country, people's anger is actually at breaking point. It's not good for community relations. It's not good for everyone to be slamming each other as racist and xenophobic and this and that and the other. It's not good for us to be growing up in a country where we feel anger and rage and people aren't integrating. It's not a healthy place to be in any way. It's not economically healthy. How much longer is it going to go on?
Yeah. So this is the cross-party Home Affairs Committee report on the mismanagement of our asylum seeker hotel system, and I think that whilst what they're talking about, these are the people. What this is about is these sucker civil servants who work at the Home Office,
signing 10-year contracts,
probably never worked in the private sector, and these people from Serco, these private sector people who are taking these contracts to accommodate migrants, are running rings around these Home Office idiots. And making fortunes. I mean, Richard Tice is coming on the show in a little while, and he's going to talk about how there are stories of local councils, this isn't the Home Office, but paying out more than £1 million to taxi firms that don't actually exist. It's an absolute joke. But I think almost worse than the financial mess of this, and it's costing, as you say, folks, this is costing us £15 billion a year. £15 billion a year. Most of that money, or great swathes of that money, I don't think we need to be spending, but we've got these idiots at the Home Office who just get mesmerised by private sector sharks who make anyway. But I think worse than that, Emma, is the fact that this report slams the Home Office for making no effort to do impact assessments of the effect of an asylum seeker hotel on a local community. So in other words, they take the Bell Hotel in the middle of a fairly small ruralish town to the north of London called Epping, but they don't do any research as to what effect that hotel, hundreds of asylum seekers suddenly living in their midst, mostly young men milling around the streets. They have been doing and continue to do no research into the effect that will have on the local community, and that's why we're looking at this ongoing catastrophe.
And that's why we've been having this wave all over the summer. We've been having this wave of anti-migrant, anti-hotel protests. They don't do the impact assessment, Kevin, because they know what people will say. We actually don't want this in our local communities. They know what people will say. They're scared of it. And the reason they're signing these contracts, there are millions that are owed back to us as well that they haven't pursued, that they haven't. And you're absolutely right about those private companies. They're laughing. They know that the civil servants are desperate to find places to put people. So they can almost write literally a figure on the back of a fag packet. And people sign up to these contracts. And look, it was agreed 4.5 billion, that contract's gone to 15 billion. And the money keeps rolling in for them, for these private companies. Someone is making a vast amount of money.
Yeah, and because the people who work in the civil service, as I say, most of them probably never worked in the private sector. They have no kind of financial imperative. They're used to having a bottomless pit of taxpayers' money, and thus it gets wasted. It's been terribly, terribly wasted. What we could do with, though, Emma, is more hotel owners like Samuel Leeds. He was offered a big, massive amount of money. These are hotel owners, you know. You got a hotel, I don't know, smaller hotels, shall we say you got 50 rooms or something. And you know, if you're running a little hotel in somewhere like Cambridgeshire, it's quite hard going. Along comes someone like Circa and says, we'll give you, you know, I don't know, 20 million quid for the next year. Guarantee you full occupation. You don't even have to run the joint. You can go off with the money. So it's a very tempting proposition for so many hotel owners. But don't you wish there were more hotel owners around like Samuel Leeds, who turned down a £3 million migrant hotel contract in Cambridgeshire? Take it away, Samuel.
They want me to house illegal immigrants in my 26-bedroom hotel here in Cambridge. I was offered by a company that offered to pay me £35,000 per month for almost 7 years. That's a lot of money. And they were going to use it to house illegal immigrants. And I said, no. Now, commercially, does it make sense? Well, I personally, I don't care if I make more money or less money. I want to run it as a hotel. On principle, that's what I decided. Sometimes you have to stick to your principles and put your values over money.
Well, what a guy, but, you know, and hats off to him. But, you know, if it can be a hard business running a little hotel in a rural town. And I can't find it in my heart to completely condemn everyone who says, hang on a second, you're saying to me you're going to give me 3 million quid over 3 years? I'll take it.
The occupancy of the Bell before it was in Epping, the one that was filled up with migrants, was something like 2%. You know, it's really hard.
Yes.
It was a very, very low occupancy rate. Over winter, you won't get tourists coming to these small towns. So yes, it is extremely tempting. I think, you know, I'm not sure, but also this idea that we are paying. Think about the private companies. We are paying £145 a night per migrant, which is a lot more than, you know, a sort of, it's going to cost them just to put them in an HMO or whatever. So yeah, they're making a lot of money on this.
They sure are. Listen, we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we will discuss it. It's all over all the papers, of course, this ridiculous weekend of chaos after Chelmsford Prison accidentally released Britain's best-known asylum seeker sex offender. It's just an extraordinary story. We will talk about that after these messages. Stay tuned, folks.
She's not a left-wing choice. She wasn't, from any of the left factions in the party. Lucy Powell, for those of us who remember the Corbyn days, was a real thorn in the side for Jeremy Corbyn. She hears the dissatisfaction in the base, and she hears what members are saying, and she wants to try and represent that as a deputy leader. I would think there's more about personal ambition in it for her than there is actually about trying to do the right thing or the moral thing or represent the members.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan in for Mike Graham. I'm with Emma Wolfe, and we are going through the papers. Well, Emma, it is now time to talk about our Ethiopian friend, Hadush Kabatu. He was in the middle of, he was just at the beginning of a year-long sentence for 2 sexual assaults in Epping at the Bell Hotel, the now notorious, if you like, Bell Hotel. He was in the process of groping a poor little 14-year-old girl when the local lady stepped in to try and help her, and he groped her too. So he got a year. A lot of people saying, why did he only get a year when some of the people protesting about his crime got 2 years? What is that all about? Two-tier justice yet again. We're looking at him now visiting a local library. It's Dalston,
That's Dalston Library.
What was he doing in the damn library? Trying to get some reading
I tell you
material?
what he's going... I'll tell you where that is, Kevin.
Yeah.
I was there on Saturday. Saturday?
Yeah,
with my 5-year-old.
be...
making blooming Halloween masks. That is the steps that can lead up to the children's library, by the way.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
You see,
and
but
every
that...
single person who sees that went, that is Dalston Library.
Well, Emma, that brings it into sharp focus. That's what the catastrophe really revolves around. Not only was this guy let out in absurd circumstances by an utter mistake, he's a very serious sex offender. He's a danger to women and children. You're telling me now he's on his way up to the children's section of Dalston Library. That's what they did to this country. They made it less safe for 3 dangerous days. But the story on Friday of how he got released was just absurd. I mean, basically, they, to his great confusion, on Friday morning, they said, right, Hammett, Hadush, you're out of here, you're being released. And he's going, what? They kicked him out of the jail. He didn't know what the hell to do. He milled around outside the prison for 90 minutes, an hour and a half, and he kept going back in to the, saying, excuse me, are you sure, what am I supposed to do? And in the end, one of them said, oh, for God's sake, listen, the station is just down the road, it's on the left, here's 76 quid, off you go. So they sort of forced him in a wave of confusion out into the world, and then he spent 44 hours wandering around, made his way down to London.
Got on a train into Liverpool Street. The images we're seeing on screen, if you're watching, he's standing on Dalston Kingsland, which is a very, very busy thoroughfare. That is on Saturday. He's hanging around, he's chatting to members of the public. He's got a bag full of new clothes, because when he was captured
that's
on
his prison
Sunday, he's wearing his prison garb, but he's got a bag full of new clothes, which he later, in true Dalston Hackney fashion, got an avocado tote bag to put in. He's standing, talking to people walking around, and this was during a manhunt. Kevin, this was during a manhunt, so no police noticed this. No police were out to see this man. He then bought clothes, because when he was taken on Sunday morning,
jeans and a black jacket,
he was wearing new jeans, a new black hoodie, and a new top. So he was presumably in a clothes shop trying things on. I mean, this really was not safe for the public.
Yeah, so far, one prison officer, one member of staff at Chelmsford Jail has been suspended. What about the governor? I think his name is Mark Howard. What about him? Shouldn't he be sacked What about David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, the Minister in charge? Shouldn't he be sacked? What about James Timpson, the Prison Minister? Shouldn't he be sacked? One of the malaises in this country right now is there's never any accountability. No matter what goes wrong, nobody gets sacked. Have a look at some of the civil servants in charge of the Home Office that we've just been talking about, most of whom were earning £450,000, and when they left the Home Office in a state of disarray, total mess, were given huge bonuses, payoffs. It's a joke. No accountability. You tend to get rewarded for mistakes in this country. Since so Hadush Kabatu finally yesterday morning at 8:30, standing in a bus stop. You couldn't make this stuff up, could you? In Finsbury Park in North London, two women walked by and spotted him, and they called the police. The police came and arrested him. Bang, end of story. Police ever since, and Lammy sort of congratulating themselves. What a fantastic job they've done. A guy called James Conway, who was Commander James Conway, talking about the diligent police operation. They got a lucky phone call. As you said, Emma, look at him on Saturday morning. Where are the cops there? Here's David Lammy turning this absolute disaster into something like a triumph. Listen to that.
Well, I wanted to come down here to Wood Green Station to thank the officers. It's my constituency area, to thank them for apprehending Kabatu so fantastically, really, following the public, responding to the appeal, calling it in, and officers arresting him and getting him back into custody so he can be deported this week. I'm very grateful to them, to British Transport Police, for Essex Police, the Metropolitan Police, for all that they have done over this last 48 hours. And as you know, this was totally unacceptable. I will be making a statement in Parliament tomorrow. There will be a further and full investigation into how this happened.
You say he will be deported. There is a flight tonight from Heathrow to Addis Ababa at 8:15 p.m. Will he be on that flight? And if not, why not?
It's right that he's questioned by the police following his route from Essex into London, and then, of course, 48 hours in which he has been basically around. It's right that we get to the bottom of what's happened over the course of those 48 hours, but I can assure you that he will be deported as he was expected to be deported. I expect that to happen this week.
I'll tell you what's right, what would be right, Lammy, is you get sacked. I mean, what would this... Oh, I'm going to thank you to the police and the marvellous operation. Come on. Come on, this is a catastrophe. This is a shambles. It's an excruciating embarrassment. And then they're going, well, very good police operation. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. They got a phone call yesterday morning. Two diligent, decent citizens. Hello, we've seen this guy's at a bus stop. Oh, thanks very much. They come down and arrest him. Now they're busy backing, slapping their own backs about how wonderful it is. How about sacking Lammy? How about that?
Absolutely. How about answering some questions and not blaming the Tories for this? This happened on Friday. Lammy was actually blaming the Tories. This happened on Friday. This man, not only, as you say, Kev...
Did he blame the Tories?
Not only... He did blame the Tories. He said this is years of failure by the Tories.
Oh,
not
for God's sake.
Went back to reception about 5 times saying, what am I doing? Why are you releasing me? With his wad of cash that he was given back that he'd entered the country with.
76 quid, yeah.
Well, no, he had his 76, but he also had a substantial amount of cash that he had of himself, and they're given that back when they're released.
OK, fine.
So he had that. But a delivery driver who was delivering something to the prison said, I saw this guy wandering around outside. He looked really confused. He looked really confused.
There was a commotion going on because the guards were getting irritated.
In his prison.
Just go, will you?
There's the train station.
There's the station.
That'll get you into London.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
But, folks, seriously, let me know what you think about this. 03444991000. I think this is very important. This is about accountability. More and more in this country, people don't take the blame for their mistakes. No one is punished. And we just move on, particularly in the public sector. Now, if we don't have accountability, if people are not punished for their mistakes, they'll make them again and again and again. That's the whole idea. So, I mean, I feel sorry for this prison officer and I feel sorry for the other ones who are going to get in trouble, but they've made an unacceptable mistake. This is about being professional, not totally useless amateurs. So that guy needs to be sacked. Other people need to be sacked. I would suggest the ministers in charge need to be sacked and the prison governor needs to be sacked as well. Yes? Am I right? We can't just go, oh man, that was a thing, wasn't it? We let him out on Friday. Who'd have thunk it? Oh my God. Ha ha ha. No, no, no. People have got to take the blame. Accountability. 0344 499 1000. I think we're going to break, and when we come back, I think we might talk about the world's worst couple, Fergie and Andrew. Apparently they want... You know, they got this massive, great house, 30-room mansion called the Royal Lodge in the shadow of Windsor Castle. Well, they finally, and the King's been trying to get them out. Well, they finally agreed to move out, apparently, but only if they're given 2 houses as a replacement. It's about time we told these two to just shove off, go away, and stick your lives where the sun don't shine. We don't want to know you anymore. Don't give them any more houses. Just kick them out. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'm still with a writer, journalist and broadcaster, Emma Wolf. We're going through the papers. I've got lots of texts coming in already. Thank you so much. Here's one for you and me, Emma. Good morning, Kevin and Emma. Great show today. Well, thank you. So far, 40 minutes in. But thank you very much, Michelle and Altrincham. She says, where is the photo recognition van everyone's talking about? If it had been in use, they'd have caught him straight away. You honestly couldn't make it up. That's true. They go on about this facial recognition technology. Well, you said there he was in the middle of crowded Dalston on Saturday morning, chatting away to a lovely day with his prison bag full of stuff, and it's unbelievable.
Grey tracksuit, probably says Chelmsford Prison down the side.
Hey, Commander James Conway and you, Lemmy. Commander James, this has been a very diligent police operation. No, Commander James Conway, take a look at yourself. Take a look at yourself in the mirror. Don't congratulate yourself now. This is ridiculous. Sue M says, it might be Sue M, but it says here, all one word, Sue M, talking about our Ethiopian friend. How are they going to deport him? Didn't know we had a returns agreement with Ethiopia. That's an interesting point, but I mean, I assume they will get him on a plane. What I want to know, Emma, is when he gets to Ethiopia, what happens to him? Does he just get released? Because I don't find that at all satisfactory. It's all very well saying, oh, these criminals who break our laws, asylum seekers, let's just send them back to their home countries. Most of their home countries are what we call euphemistically developing countries, third world countries. Couldn't organise, they're even worse than us, couldn't organise a booze up in a brewery. So these people like our friend here, our Ethiopian friend, my fear is, well, oh, deport, get rid. So we deport them and then they walk free. So they don't get, this guy potentially, basically doesn't really get punished for sexually assaulting 2 British women. I don't like that.
I disagree with you. I think I don't want them in this country. I don't want to put them up in prisons at the taxpayers' expense anymore. Send them back.
I don't want them to go free.
I don't care. They committed crimes in this country. We don't want them in this country. This is the problem. Taking on all the world's problems, taking everything on ourselves, taking these criminals and dealing with them here. I don't want to put him in prison for the next 20 years.
What about the two?
They would probably prefer him not to be in this country. If we can't keep him safe in this country, we clearly can't keep him behind bars.
I think you have to say to women who've been sexually assaulted, oh, this guy that sexually assaulted you, we're going to let him go, he's going to be free. How do you feel
in Ethiopia. So Ethiopia have to deal with him.
And nobody should like that. That is wrong. It is wrong. These people should be punished for their offences. But hopefully, I don't know, we'll have to look into this. Hopefully, when he gets back to Ethiopia, he goes into an Ethiopian jail.
Which won't be fun.
But I can say that again. It'll be a lot nastier than Chelmsford, and I bet they don't release him by accident. Right, well, let's move on anyway. Let me know what you think about that fiasco, obviously. 03444991000. Talking of fiascos.
Yes,
Two pads, Andy. So, you've been following, we've all been following with great interest, his domestic arrangements, this lying prince. I didn't assault Virginia Griffith on 3 different continents. I say you did. I say you did. I say you're lying because you are a liar. We know you're a liar. Because you said, you told Emily Maitlis, I've cut off all contact with Jeffrey Epstein, I'll never be it. And now we know 3 weeks later there's a email from Andy to Epstein saying, oh yeah, it looks like we're in a bit of trouble. Don't worry, it'll all pass over. We can play again
soon.
So, Andy is a liar, so anything he ever says, you know, we can't trust. Fergie's a liar too, for the same reason. She said, I'll never talk to Epstein again.
And was emailing him.
But, you know, they're not going to cut off contact with, they don't care whether he's a paedophile. What they cared about was the fact he was a billionaire who was prepared to give him a few bucks. So, anyway, there's been this long-running saga where the King has been trying to get him to leave Andrew, this is, and Fergie, the 30-room mansion, the Royal Lodge, where the Queen Mother used to live. He's got this, what we're told is a cast-iron lease, which goes on to...
Peppercorn rent.
Yeah, peppercorn rent. Anyway, the word is today, that's hence the headline 2 pads, Andy, that he's agreed, or this awful couple have agreed to move out, but only on the basis that they are given 2 homes in Windsor Great Park in return. One would be Frogmore Cottage for Andrew. This is where Meghan and Harry used to live, and they spent like millions of pounds doing it up, so it's probably a very nice place. And the other pad, massive pad they want, is the rather euphemistically named Adelaide Cottage, which is about the size of a mansion. You know, it's a castle or something. But anyway, Adelaide Cottage is where William and Kate and the kids currently live. They're about to move into a much bigger place. And so Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew said, we'll move out of Royal Lodge if we get 2 houses. I say, you move out of Royal Lodge and we put you into a house of multiple occupation in Sunderland or somewhere like this. I think so. Seriously, though, I think we kick them out of the Royal Lodge and we say, don't care where you live. Sort it out yourself.
The King really needs to get a grip on this. All this nonsense has been swirling around for months and months. This thing about we want to evict him, but we can't. I'm sure there are ways to do this. Do you realise how large Royal Lodge is? I know it's 30 rooms and we all say that. 40 hectares, that's the size of 60 football pitches. That's the garden.
I know.
He's been living there. He and Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, are divorced. They've been living there in this vast, vast kind of castle place. They now want 2 separate homes a mile apart. So they're going to have this like cosy little ménage à deux, you know, with these 2 very lovely, and they're both, as you say, called cottages. Frogmore Cottage, £2.4 million renovation. That's not a cottage, but anyway, that one was very nice.
They call them cottages.
Yeah, they call them cottages. Adelaide Cottage, where the future king and Catherine are currently living with their 3 children. The Frogmore was a present to Harry and Meghan. They got annoyed and left for California after all that. But I mean, who does Andrew think he is?
Yeah.
This man, some might say, should be, you know, behind bars or in Chelmsford prison or whatever. And now he's calling the terms on this?
Yeah. Now, here's another thing. Let me know what you think about this, folks. But the king, again, you know, he's handled this very, very badly. And I think he tried to get away with it, to sweep it under the carpet. Yep. Oh, my brother has agreed not to be known as the Duke of York.
To use his titles.
Or the Earl of Inverness. Not good enough. Not good. He said, I don't want to bother Parliament. It's too busy for this act to go through. It would take 10 minutes to get this act through Parliament, and it will get voted. So I think he's trying to let his brother keep the titles, keep him happy. He allowed Andrew to make the statement when that happened. He shouldn't have done that. He should have released the statement. So my point is, let me know what you think, folks, and you tell me what you think, Emma. I think that the Act of Parliament that the King doesn't want, to strip his brother officially, fully, of his 3 titles, his 3 royal titles, Earl of Inverness, Baron Kililea, and of course the Duke of York. I think that we, the people of this country, should demand that Act of Parliament goes through. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And there is, very interestingly, the Lib Dems have tabled one of their opposition amendment discussions. So for the first time, or for the first time in many, many decades, Parliament are going to discuss the royal family. They're not, they you know, traditionally don't criticise the royal family. So there's going to be a big discussion on that. Why? There's enough to criticise there.
Why aren't our MPs allowed to discuss our royal family? That kind of ludicrous, outmoded, anachronistic deference has got to end.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to pile pressure on the King as well. But there was a really interesting piece, Kevin, I'm sure you saw it. It was yesterday in the Sunday Times, Roya Nikkhah, talking about how the late Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, had been too indulgent to her second son. And basically, because of the Queen letting Andrew get away with everything, she left this unexploded bomb for Charles. And I love that. I love the idea that Charles, and he's not really equipped to deal with it. Look how much firmer William has been, because William gets it. William is in his 40s. He gets it that you can't have this Duke of York, his uncle, going around allegedly hanging out with paedophiles. He gets it. That Charles just wants it to go away.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
oh, it's so nice.
You know, I mean, why did he pay over £10 million if he'd never met this woman?
Yeah. Oh, no, he's
the whole thing stinks.
He's a liar. He's a liar. We know he's a liar. As you say, I've never met this woman, but I'll give her £12 million
to shut her
not
up.
to take me to court. Well, if you've never met her, why would you give her £12 million? That's an obvious point to make, but I think it's one that we all run through our heads every time we think about Andrew. He's still saying, I dare vehemently deny the allegations against me. Well, of course, Virginia Giuffre's posthumous book came out last week called Nobody's Girl, very harrowing, where she chronicles in painful detail what happened between her and Andrew on 3 different continents. I mean, he denies this, I have to say this, but she's putting in details like he was sexually aggressive, obsessed with her feet, and so on and so forth. The details, shall we say, are suspiciously intimate, if you know what I'm saying. Yes, Prince Andrew, what do you think? What have we got here? This is from Sharon. Sharon, good morning, Kevin and Emma. Good to see you both this morning. I am sick of Andrew. I can't understand why Charles doesn't get rid of this man. He is such an embarrassment. Why is Andrew making all these demands for him and Fergie? It's a good point, Sharon. It's a good point. He's not in a position to make demands.
He's really not. I wouldn't even give him your council house in Sunderland. He can go and take care of himself. Look, he and Fergie have spent
poor Sunderland. Sunderland doesn't deserve it.
Sunderland's a lovely place. They don't deserve this. And look, he can go to, you know, his chalet in Switzerland. He's got plenty of friends around the world. I think he and Fergie need to get their passports and get to the airport and take themselves off somewhere else.
This is from Mia's in Shropshire. Well said, by the way. Kevin and Emma, forget dealing with the migrants that are here. We need to stop the channel crossings, is a good point. Yes. The only way to stop them is to make France stop them. The only leverage we have is fishing licences. Revoke one licence for every illegal boat that arrives on our side. The
one in, one out.
Good point. Will then be puncturing and stopping the boats. They won't put up with it. I always think that we make too much about this fishing thing. We also I disagree. The only way to stop migrants is not get France to do it, because as long as we pursue that dead end, it's never going to happen. France is never going to stop them. We're going to stop them ourselves. And if we can't stop them in the mid-channel and turn them round again, if we can't do that, then we have to have a policy, in my view. You arrive here illegally, you can't claim asylum because you broke our laws. We detain you, then we deport you. If they get the message, the migrants, that once they get here, they don't get. Yes. Well, right now, the message that we give to migrants coming across the channel: if you break our laws and you break into our country illegally, you better watch out, because we'll put you in a 4-star hotel. We'll give you £50 a week benefits. We'll give you free food for life. We'll give you free doctors, free dentists, and free lawyers to fight your case to stay. That's what we give them. So, what we should do is stop giving them all of that. Tell them that once you arrive, like they do in Australia and now in America, you came into our country illegally, you don't get to stay under any circumstances. Get that message through to the migrants, the cross-channel migrants, and they won't cross the channel anymore, right?
Absolutely. We are such a soft touch. Yeah. There is no...
softest in the world.
There's no kind of motivation for France to stop them. When they get to France, they're at the end of the road. France are almost, they need them to come here, because otherwise France are going to have to deal with them and they're all going to pile up at Calais. It's always been the case that there are so many pull factors. We've got to have deterrence. We've got to have... we can't keep being the soft touch, the welcoming, open arms and giving them everything, because then they keep coming.
Exactly right. It's just absurd. By the way, we used to allow 76% of asylum applications used to be accepted. Yeah. They've sort of raised the game a little now, but we still allow 48% of all asylum applications to be approved. That is by far and away the biggest percentage in the world. The nearest to us in Europe, I think, is Germany. No, it's France. They allow about 30%, which is very high. But other countries like Germany and Italy and other sort of fairly liberal European countries, you're talking about 5-10% maximum. So we're allowing 48% to say. Again, that's not a deterrent. That's an enticement. And don't get me started on the one in, one out.
One in, one out. One fish, one out. But listen, also, Kevin, the 52% that aren't turned down, do you really think that they are immediately detained and deported? Because they're not.
No, you're right.
So even the 48%, OK, they're here legally, they get presumably ILR, whatever. They get their indefinite leave to remain forever and ever. What about the rest of them? I think people just remain and stay, because look at the chaos at the Home Office. They stay here, they go underground, they work on the black market, and they don't leave.
Exactly right. And that's another thing we've got to do something about. Every time you get your asylum seeker application denied, all they do...
you appeal!
They appeal, and they can appeal forever. So every time they have their application denied, they appeal. I've been denied again. They appeal again. They appeal again. They appeal again. We've had stories of people who've appealed 12 times.
And each appeal...
and then they finally get allowed to stay.
And each appeal gets you a couple more years in the country.
Yeah, I know,
because the backlog in the courts for all these appeals and all the rubbing their hands human rights lawyers, with the Julian guy, the good law guy who, takes on any case, sort of Keir Starmer, but...
Yeah,
it's absolutely ridiculous.
You mean the fox killer? Right, let's go to break, and when we come back, we'll carry on going through the papers all the way up to the top of the hour, so stick around.
kicking off being like, oh, Trump's demolishing part of the White House, blah, blah. I saw there are plans potentially for an Arc de Trump as well. I don't know if anyone's been to Paris, there's the Arc de Triomphe. He wants an Arc de Trump. That is verified, Kev. You're looking very sus.
But I'm just thinking, Arc de Triomphe.
But he is a builder at heart. I mean, let's remember he is a builder.
What is the Arc de Triomphe? It's the arch that you drive through when you go there. Have you seen it?
Yeah, you know, the next thing you'll be doing is telling me that there's some sort of steel tower there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still with Emma Wolf, writer, journalist, broadcaster. She cycled in this morning about like 3:30 in the morning. I was thinking, if I had gone past, I'd go, who's that mad woman on a bicycle in the middle of the night? But anyway, it's good to have her on board. Let's talk about something serious, though. This is page 17 in The Sun. It's in the Daily Telegraph as well. The headline is Khan grooming cover-up claims. The Metropolitan Police, this is a fact, this isn't a claim, are probing 9,000 historic cases potentially of sexual abuse of young females. In other words, rape gang stuff as well. Now, the emerging, developing story, Emma, is that Sadiq Khan, I think outrageously, is trying to deny that there's any problem at all with rape gangs in London. Now, this is what the towns across the north, Rochdale, Rotherham and all those places, this is what they did. For many years, they pretended it wasn't happening. A, because they didn't want to seem like they were Islamophobic, because the perpetrators, as we know, are mainly Muslim men of Pakistani heritage. They didn't like the idea of that. And they just didn't. They thought it would make their towns look bad. Yeah. So they tried to pretend it wasn't happening. They turned a blind eye. Coppers, teachers, social workers, local politicians, and the rest we know is rancid history. We are now sitting on the worst ever sex scandal in this country, with as many as 250,000 victims, vulnerable young white girls mainly, many of them underage, who deserve justice. The Mayor of London is doing what those towns did. He is pretending it doesn't happen here. You saw Susan Hall, the redoubtable Tory leader in the London Assembly, quizzing him the other week, saying, well, rape, and he kept going, what do you mean rape? Grooming? I'm sorry. Do you mean county lines? No, Sadiq. You may have read about the grooming gangs or the rape gangs in the newspapers. You might have seen it on the TV. I don't know. He acts like he doesn't even know what the concept is.
Exactly. And this is not just, as you say, turning a blind eye. This is cover-up, Kev. There was cover-up on a huge scale across those towns in the north. And Sadiq Khan, who's been manfully pressed on this issue by Susan Hall, the redoubtable, brilliant Susan Hall, who asked him 9 times about grooming gangs. And I'm glad you're calling them rape gangs, because this isn't grooming.
They're not grooming.
You groom people for success. You groom people, you groom a dog or a cat to make them look lovely. Grooming gangs is an appalling way to describe what those young girls went through. And it is almost all exclusively white girls. And they were turning a blind eye because they didn't want to inflame community tensions. What, so you think it's okay for young girls in your towns to be passed around like pieces of meat by taxi drivers? This is absolutely appalling. So Sadiq Khan has been saying, I'm not clear what you mean by this. He said, there's absolutely no indication and no report of this.
There's plenty of indication, and I think he's in big trouble here, skating on thin ice. Emma, fantastic first hour. Thank you so much. Our thanks to Emma Wolf, writer, journalist, broadcaster. We will be back after the 7 o'clock news with Peter Blexley. So stick around.
Do you think it's a racist policy?
Well, I do think that it's a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it is.
According to Keir Starmer, if you think young men that illegally cross the English Channel should be detained and deported, you're racist. In fact, if you even criticise any element of the immigration policies of the last two governments, you're racist. And yet the Home Secretary, Shabama Mahmood, tries to copy our policies.
Patriotism, a force for good, is turning into something smaller, something more like ethno-nationalism, which struggles to accept that someone who looks like me and has a faith like mine can truly be English or British.
Britain is being invaded. Thousands of fighting-age men from countries that despise Britain continue to arrive on our beaches. Our plan is the only appropriate response to a national security emergency. Immediate removal. Deportation is the ultimate deterrent.
Our flags flying proudly as we celebrate difference and oppose racism.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists.
We can all see that the country faces a choice, a defining choice. Britain stands at a fork in the road. We can choose decency, or we can choose division, renewal or decline.
To accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organisations like that. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of Morning Glory. 3 hours still to go. I've never seen the... look, the sun's coming up now, so very alien environment for me. I'm usually a creature of the night, so here it comes. Looks like a nice day in London, so I'll keep you posted with the weather, but more importantly, with all the big stories of the day. So much still to come. But we need now, as a matter of some urgency, to return to the fiasco that unfolded over this past weekend when on Friday Britain's best known asylum seeker sex offender was released by mistake from Chelmsford prison. Kept trying to get back into the prison. The prison officers wouldn't have it. You cannot look, the station's down there. 5 times he tried to get back into the prison. Oh no. So far, only one prison officer has been suspended on this. Are you finding that to be satisfactory? Because I'm not. 0344 499 1000. Honestly, you cannot overstress the farce of this. Here he is in Dalston Library on Saturday. Emma Wolfe just telling me that's her local library, and she was there with her kid. He's on his way up to the children's section. That's good, isn't it? What a joke. What an absolute joke. Well, let's welcome to the show someone who, when he was a copper, actually specialised in manhunts, in hunting down wanted criminals. So he's very much the guy to talk to. He is, of course, our favourite former Met Police detective, Peter Bleksley. Morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Well, look, first of all, your overarching thoughts about what we've seen in 3 catastrophic days since Friday. I mean, this is a shambles on a whole new level. This is absolutely excruciating, humiliating, embarrassing, absolute, utter incompetence on the part of this prison. I don't think the coppers particularly distinguished themselves, trying to pat themselves on the back yesterday morning, say, oh, what a diligent search. They got a lucky phone call from two women who saw this guy waiting at a bus stop. And then Lammy says, I want to thank the police. Well, he should get sacked. I think this prison governor, Mark Howard, should get sacked. We need accountability on this. But first of all, Pete, your thoughts about what we've witnessed.
A friend of mine who lives in America contacted me yesterday and said, Peter, what is going on with your country? He said, over here, he said, you're a laughing stock. He said, you can't even keep your prisoners behind bars. And I said, no, it's deeply, deeply embarrassing. And so it goes. The reputation of this once great nation is being shredded around the globe through incompetency. And while I'm talking about incompetency, let me start my role of dishonour with regards to this pathetic saga. Lord Timpson, Prisons Minister, what's he been doing? David Lammy, Justice Minister, is it any surprise? Shabana Mahmood, Home Secretary, up until recently, the Justice Minister. They've all got this embarrassment all over their hands, and it truly is a disgrace. And to hear Lammy yesterday, as you rightly pointed out, heaping praise upon law enforcement, the public found him, the public called this in, the public put his time on the run to an end.
Yeah. Somebody called, a copper called James Conway, Commander James Conway, released a statement yesterday congratulating the police on a diligent operation, which has successfully resulted in the recapturing of this guy, Hadush Kabatu. Well, as I just said, Peter, and as you were alluding to, this was just a bit of luck on the coppers' part that two ladies in Finsbury Park yesterday morning at 8:30 a.m. spotted this guy waiting at a bus stop. We've been looking at footage of him in Dalston High Street on Saturday morning in his prison tracksuit, carrying around his prison plastic bag. There he is, full of his possessions, his possessions. Where are the police here? I mean, these scenes alone shame the police. Don't start congratulating yourself on a magnificent operation. There is no congratulations to be handed out here, either on the part of the prison or the police or the politicians or anyone else. This is a shambles and an embarrassment from start to finish, right?
The only debt of thanks that needs to be paid here is to those diligent members of the public who picked up the phone. The police quite simply responded to a 999 call where somebody said, he's here, come and get him. It was about as a challenging police and policework as going to the post office and picking up a parcel.
Exactly right. Don't congratulate yourself. Absolutely ridiculous. Do you happen to know, so when they release a prisoner, if this guy was being released properly, surely he wouldn't still be wearing his prison-grade tracksuit, would he? So the fact that he's still in that tracksuit, why didn't the prison officers who kept telling him to go away when he went back 5 times, apparently milled around outside Chelmsford Prison, completely confused about what was going on, went back 5 times to effectively say, are you sure about this? What's going on? And in the end, they kept shooing him away, and in the end, one of them angrily said, look, for God's sake, the station's just down the road, it's on the left, will you get the hell out of here? But my question to you, Peter, is if he was wearing his prison tracksuit, shouldn't that have raised alarms with the guards?
Yes, it should have done, although, just to clarify, what happens with short-term prisoners is they are often released in the clothes they were wearing when they were arrested. But of course, if that clothing has been seized for forensic examination and not returned, sometimes they do have to walk out of the gates in prison clothing. But often charities will try to provide them with clothing, because the last thing you really want is to walk out of a prison saying to the wider public, here I am, I've just been released. Although sometimes with carrying clear plastic bags or a prison issue holdall, for example, is a sign that people in the know will readily appreciate that person's just been released from prison.
Yeah, apparently, as is always the case in these circumstances, when someone's prisoner's being released, they give them 76 quid. But also apparently our friend Kabatu had a fair amount of money. And so that money upon his release was returned to him. So he wasn't financially struggling during these 3 days on the run. But the police didn't seem to do anything. It was your expertise, wasn't it, manhunts, looking for wanted prisoners. What should the coppers have done the moment they realised that this debacle had happened, that he'd been accidentally released? What should they have done to catch him earlier?
Well, first of all, here's a question that I don't know the answer to. Where did Kabatu get this money from? The money apart from the £76. Let's face it, he is an illegal immigrant. He came to this country in breach of Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971, which makes him fundamentally, irrevocably, an illegal immigrant. So he couldn't work. So where did that cash come from, I wonder? Maybe that's a question somebody else can answer. But in regards to the manhunt, they knew he'd got on a train, so they will have picked up the CCTV thread from there. That was really their start point. And what you have between a fugitive and your team is an imaginary piece of string that you're forever trying to shorten as you get closer and closer to the fugitive. Of course, on Saturday night at about 8 p.m, when the police announced that they had CCTV footage from 8 p.m. on Friday, I was deeply concerned because that piece of string seemed to have lengthened to over 24 hours. So I wonder just how close they'd got to him. I wonder just how effective the manhunt had been, how many resources were deployed to it. Those questions still remain. They'll probably never be answered because as far as the establishment now, the police, the prison service, the Home Office are all concerned. It's case closed. He's now in handcuffs. All they've simply got to do is get him out of the country. But that, of course, begs another question, bearing on a very recent example. Will he return to the UK again? Will he have another go at getting on a dinghy and floating into the UK like so many thousands upon thousands of them are doing every year?
You see, another thing that worries me about this, and by the way, accountability, it's something that seems to have died a death in this country, and the most appalling mistakes can be made, particularly in the public sector, time and time again. No one takes the blame, no one gets punished. Now, in this instance, I think we could break the mould and set a new pattern. Start making people pay for this humiliation, this embarrassment over the last 3 days. Sack the prison governor. I mean, I don't like calling for people to be sacked, but, you know, this is important. This is serious. The prison governor, the name of Mark Howard, surely he should be sacked. He can't be the buck has to stop somewhere. This is a guy running Chelmsford Jail. It is quite clearly a shambles, an absolute mess. So sack him. Sack all the prison officers who were responsible for this, not just one. Who was it that kept telling him to leave? Who was it gave him directions to the station and told him to get the hell out of there? Sack them. Sack David Lammy, the minister in charge. Sack James Timpson, the prison minister. Make the public know that people are not allowed to commit this kind of incompetence, this catastrophic incompetence, and get away with it. We need to send a message here, don't we, Pete?
You and I are old enough to remember prime ministers like Ted Heath and Harold Wilson and Margaret Thatcher and the like. Now, of course, back in those days, when ministers had a catastrophic error for which they presided over, they would fall on their sword. There was some honour in politics back in the day, but that's all disappeared. So, along with so much else that has been pushed forward by the progressives. Now, I'm a bit reluctant to call for the sacking of what is probably a poorly recruited, badly trained, underpaid frontline worker in the prison service who may not even have English as their first language. That is the state of things in some of our prisons. But the prison governor has many, many questions to answer. But this chaotic shambles of a criminal justice system lies across the board, from the front end of policing, and we all know about the issues that policing is facing, through to the CPS, underfunded, understaffed, comes up with some dreadful decisions and is failing on many levels. Then we get to the prisons, well, the courts rather, and we all know that they've got a massive backlog. They've got leaking roofs, rubbish IT. Many courts are not sitting when they could. Then we go to the prisons, and then finally to the probation service, who are only effectively managing about a quarter of their workload. The entire criminal justice system is a shambles. And what does that mean to the likes of you and me and your audience? I'll tell you what it means. We are all a little less safe. There are more crooks out there, more criminals. There are people being released early from prison, people not being sentenced when they should do, and so it goes. It is a national disgrace.
Totally is. Talking of our criminal justice system, I wanted to get your take on this. The Metropolitan Police, your old force, is spending £5.2 million this year on woke diversity initiatives. They have 64 diversity staff working at the Met while they're busy laying off many, many coppers because they apparently can't afford them. They're losing jobs worth £250 million right now in the Met, but they're hanging on to their 64 diversity officers, and they have issued a diversity calendar containing 63 events, including International Pronouns Day, Be Kind to Humankind Week, National Tsunami Awareness Week, and so on and so forth. This operation is costing £5.2 million a year to basically maintain the Metropolitan Police's diversity calendar. Your thoughts, please?
Or, as I rather call it, their woke agenda. New Scotland Yard is the headquarters of the once world-renowned Metropolitan Police. I was fortunate enough in my time working for them to travel extensively, including to places like America. When I was greeted by the FBI once as I was going to their headquarters training, they said to me, "Peter, we're going to take you to watch the snowcap operatives training." Now, these were the people that were flying down to Colombia to disrupt the cocaine factories in the jungles. They said, "We think you'll learn a lot about cocaine factories, cocaine manufacture. You can take that back into your undercover work in England and in Europe, and we think that would be helpful." Of course it was. Can you imagine today if I was still a serving detective when I would be greeting FBI or other law enforcement operatives off of an aeroplane at Heathrow, and I could say to them, "Good morning. Today I'm going to take you to the Pansexual and Panromantic Awareness Day because I think it might help with you and your law enforcement when you get back to the States." If you don't fancy that, I could always take you to International Pronouns Day or maybe National Tsunami Awareness Week. What a joke. This is where the progressives get you. This is the fluffy, liberal takeover of the nation, the tentacles sown by Blair in 1997, that successive governments have failed to rip out and grab some common sense. This is what it's come to.
It sure as hell is, and it's not a good point to come to at all. Just before you go, Pete, great to have you on the show. Many thanks for joining me. Sadiq Khan, we learnt today that the Met Police, again, your old force, is currently investigating potentially 9,000 historic sexual abuse cases against the victims of rape gangs, the alleged victims of rape gangs. 9,000. The mayor, Sadiq Khan, here he is, continues to act as if London, contrary to almost every other town and city in Britain, has had, never has had, does not have any kind of rape gang problem whatsoever. When he was quizzed on it at the London Assembly a couple of weeks back, he acted like he'd never heard of the rape gang scandal. Sorry, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean? Do you mean county lines? No, we mean rape gangs. So when the mayor says, in effect, we have no rape gang problem in London, is he telling the truth? Does he just not know, or is he lying, or where are we at with this? What sort of position is he in by maintaining that there's no rape gang problem here in London?
In order to be repeatedly elected and re-elected as London Mayor, the odious, pious and revolting Sir Sadiq Khan has had to rely on the block votes of either Muslim or otherwise black and brown faces, of which, of course, there are many in London, so many of whom contribute to this nation, but there's a number who don't. He's relied on their votes. And the reason he has obfuscated, the reason he has ducked the questions, in my opinion, is because he does not want to upset that block vote. Because, as has been shown in other towns, the length and breadth of the country, Rotherham, Rochdale, Oldham, Telford, the majority of these child rape gang offenders have been brown-faced Pakistani men. And Khan is afraid of upsetting his block vote. He is like so many politicians. They put votes before victims. And for that, I heap absolute shame upon the lot of them.
Absolutely right, Peter. Well said. Great to have you on the show. Always a pleasure, mate. The brilliant Peter Blexley there, former Met Police Detective. Let me know what you think of what he was saying there, particularly about Sadiq Khan and about this fiasco. I mean, people have got to take the blame for what happened with this Ethiopian migrant who was accidentally let out. Can't just sort of go, oh, well, let's put it down to experience. Accountability. As Pete says, it's probably unfair to say, you know, lowly paid frontline prison officers should take the blame, because that's all that's happened so far, one of them. What about the prison governor? What about the prison minister? What about the Secretary of State for Justice? How about them taking the blame? How about them being punished? How about them being sacked? 03444 991 1000. When we come back, we'll talk to the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, Andrew Griffith, MP. That next, stay tuned.
he does want to be quite close to his daughters who live relatively nearby in London and Oxfordshire. So that's why he's barricaded himself in. He just will not leave. But time is of the essence because Prince William and Catherine and their kids are moving in the next 10 days to their new property, their forever home, Forest Lodge. And apparently they don't want to be bumping into Andrew as they go and walk the dogs down the lane. So there's an added pressure now on top of every other pressure, namely public pressure and even political pressure.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now let's go straight over to my next guest. Much to discuss. He is the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, Andrew Griffith. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. Good to be on the home of common sense, as always.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to have you on board. Well, first of all, Andrew, we need to talk about this appalling shambles, this fiasco of what happened with Hadush Kabatu, the Ethiopian migrant, the asylum seeker, who was, frankly, Britain's most notorious, best known asylum seeker sex offender. Sexually assaulted 2 women in Epping, was staying at the famous Bell Hotel, in jail in Chelmsford. They accidentally let him out. I mean, it's a sick comedy. Not only did they let him out, he was confused. He kept going back into the jail and saying, "Are you sure about this?" 5 times he went back in. He milled around outside the prison for 90 minutes. Eventually, apparently rather angrily, because a delivery driver saw this happen, he said, "Oh, there's quite a commotion going on." One of the prison officers said, "For God's sake, will you get out of here? The station's down there on the left. Now go, please go." So off he went, then spent 3 days on the run. The police busy congratulating themselves on a diligent operation to recapture him. Frankly, they had a bit of luck. 2 members of the public, 2 women, saw him yesterday morning at 8:30 a.m. waiting at a bus stop in Finsbury Park in North London, phoned it in, the cops arrested him. So I don't think the cops have exactly coated themselves in glory either. But your thoughts about what happened at the prison? I think what we need is accountability. We need people to take the blame for this. We need people to be punished for this. Doesn't happen enough in this country. Too many mistakes get made. Nobody gets blamed for them. Now, I would suggest we ought to be looking at the governor of that prison. We ought to be looking at the prison minister, James Timpson, and ultimately the Justice Secretary, David Lammy. David Lammy today, again, patting himself on the back. "Oh, I've been down to see the police. I want to thank them for a fabulous operation." Well, I think he's got to take a lot of blame. So does the prison governor, so does the prison minister. Your thoughts, Andrew?
Well, look, what do we know? It's far too easy to get into this country, and now we know it's far too easy to get out of jail and avoid being deported, even when you're a convicted criminal. Heads must roll. That is a long-standing convention. The buck stops with the Home Secretary or the Justice Minister in this particular case. They need to explain themselves to Parliament, and he better have a jolly good story as to why he doesn't immediately walk out of Parliament, a bit like this guy walked out of jail.
Yeah, will the Tories be calling for the resignation of David Lammy, the prison minister, James Timpson, and perhaps some kind of response from the prison governor as well, a guy called Mark Howard? What will the Tories officially be asking for in response to what we've just witnessed in the past 3 days?
Well, look, my excellent colleague Rob Jenrick doesn't need any advice from me. He's an experienced lawyer and has been very effective in prosecuting this government. But it is that really important convention. It's more than a convention, it's how our constitution is based, that ultimately the responsibility goes with the Secretary of State responsible. And we've seen that in the past. I mean, Amber Rudd had to resign as Home Secretary. It wasn't that she actually opened the door with the keys and pushed them out, but ultimately in our system, that is where responsibility stops. I don't know enough about the facts in terms of the prison governor or who knew what when, but that point about accountability is incredibly important, as you say, and as your viewers and listeners will be absolutely shouting out this morning, no more excuses. It's bad enough this government has let more in than ever before, failed to smash the gangs, as they said. They've deployed these asylum seekers across the whole of the United Kingdom. Up to 90% of us will have them in our area, in our district, by the end of this year. There must be a point where accountability, and if the Prime Minister is too weak to accept responsibility himself, then he must sack the Justice Secretary.
And you would accept at the moment, Andrew, I think the people of this country will be very upset with the fact that so far the only person to be carrying the can for this utter humiliation, this excruciating debacle, the only person carrying the can is one prison officer who's been suspended. That's not good enough, is it?
It's not good enough, and again, without knowing the facts, it doesn't feel right. Yeah, I mean, you've got to take leadership is about taking responsibility. It's not about finding the single most junior person. In fact, you got to have these people's back. They're doing a tough job on the front line. As I say, we're going to violently agree. At the end of the day, the buck stops with the Justice Secretary. He needs to come to Parliament. He needs to account for himself, his actions, and he needs to, unlike the rest of them, develop a backbone and take some responsibility.
Now, Hadesh Kabatu, we're now told, the government in panic says, we'll deport him this week, apparently as early as tomorrow. Now, I'm all for that, but what happens to him when he gets to Ethiopia? Because I don't like the idea that this guy sexually assaulted 2 British women in Epping. Sexually assaulted. He's doing a year's jail sentence. If we send him back to Ethiopia, what happens to him then? Does he just walk free? Because I don't think that's satisfactory.
Well, I think it could be worse than that. I mean, we saw with the government's ridiculous 1 in, 1 out, 1 back in again. I mean, it seems to me there's nothing to stop him simply coming back to the United Kingdom by whichever means he originally got here in the first place. So you're right to raise the issue about, has justice for this particular offence been done? But there is a much wider issue about the porousness of our borders, the fact the government's very first decision was to scrap the Rwanda deterrent, which would have been effective. Other countries are adopting it. Other countries have adopted similar schemes that have been effective elsewhere in the world. The very first thing the government did on taking office was this act of unilateral disarmament, lowering the deterrent.
Well, you and I will talk about the 1 in, 1 out scheme perhaps another time, but that is an utter farce. David Lammy, our friend Lammy again, hailing this system as working a treat because one of the 42 migrants that we've sent back to France under the 1 in, 1 out, I believe they've sent us about 16. Meanwhile, 11,000 have crossed the channel illegally since the 1 in, 1 out scheme started at the beginning of August. But because this guy that we sent back to France immediately headed back to Calais, got on an illegal boat, came back, and then got caught. David Lammy said this proves that the 1 in, 1 out scheme is working a treat. I don't think it does, actually. But just before you go, Andrew, you alluded to this earlier. There's a damning report out today by the Home Affairs Select Committee, which slams the Home Office staff for wasting billions of pounds on asylum seeker hotel contracts, basically having rings run round them by private companies who are conning them into giving them more money than they have to. And also, I think almost the worst allegation in this report is that the Home Office, when it decides on an asylum seeker hotel, for example, shall we say the Bell Hotel in Epping, that they have been making no impact assessment on the effect that that might have on the local community. So they just choose a hotel, bang, waste a load of money on it, and it's up and running. This is a real disgrace. This report is really revealing how the Home Office, yet again, is just not fit for purpose.
It's up there with some of the biggest failures of state management that I think we've ever seen. I'm glad the report is making its way into the public domain. I'm particularly exercised, I hope this is not true, that the Permanent Secretary allegedly tried to conceal this report. That's no way in which to conduct and breach many principles of public life, and if that is true, and I'd like to find that out, then they must be held accountable themselves. And you're absolutely right. I mean, in my own district of West Sussex, we have asylum accommodation, and I've asked repeatedly what impact assessments have been made, either by local authorities or by the Home Office, and regrettably, there seems to have been none. They've just been spraying around trying to find this accommodation, and the reason why is because they've ultimately completely lost control of their day job, which is to keep our borders safe.
Yeah, they certainly have done that. Andrew, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Andrew Griffith there, Shadow Business and Trade Secretary. When we come back, bit of royal stuff with my friend Kinsey Schofield, who I do believe is, she's from LA, of course, she's over in London. So we'll talk to Kinsey about Meghan, Andrew and Fergie. All that still to come. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, I can hardly believe it. She's in the studio. I usually talk to her over on the West Coast. Warm welcome to the great Kinsey Schofield, our royal guru. How are you doing, Kins?
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. A wild few weeks of royal news.
Wow, it just gets more and more dramatic, doesn't it? Should we kick off with, I suppose, we want to get onto Andrew and Fergie in just a minute, but our friend Meghan yesterday released a Halloween video of pumpkins, her and Harry carving them, and this business of taking pictures of the back of their children's head.
Nothing is spookier than faceless children.
It's getting weird. It's getting weird. Anyway, have a look at the video. This is such a natural thing. I mean, they spent hours producing that, didn't they? OK, so that's a Halloween thing for the kids and all that. Pumpkins, Harry carving the pumpkin, Meghan, kids running around. But as I say, I mean, no doubt she's got something to sell. So later today she'll say, I've got a new range of wine available or something like that.
Wait, no, what's the date? Because she told us to save the date for Tuesday, October 28th. So obviously...
that's tomorrow, right?
This is a deep tease. This is the deep tease. Yeah, she's trying to garner some attention, so all eyeballs are on her for whatever the October 28th drop will be that will unimpress us as much as the slimy jam.
Yeah. So this is a prelude to something she wants to sell you tomorrow. Always uses the kids to flog stuff.
For sure, but how much of it is also we're not Prince Andrew? How much of it is also them trying to distance themselves? Look, we're having so much fun. We're wholesome. We're doing children activities. We drug Doria out of the basement. Look, Doria's here. The kids are here. They might be trying to distract from the Prince Andrew scandal because, you know, there's something so ironic to me. Sorry to go to my soapbox here, but for Harry to say that he's just trying to hold his family accountable with the book Spare, where he completely glosses over the Prince Andrew scandal, for Meghan to say a feminist and not stand up for sex trafficking of underage women. You know, you're not trying to hold anybody accountable. You only speak up when it directly affects your wife or your children. You know, he tries to say he's out there slaying dragons for the greater good. Then step up and say something about your uncle, who is, you know, a total stain on you and your family.
Yeah, well, I think that Harry, every day and every way, gets down on his knees and thanks God for the existence of his wicked uncle Andrew, because as long as Andrew's in the frame, people aren't concentrating on wicked Harry, who's whose nefarious behaviour isn't quite in the league of his awful uncle, but it's pretty bad anyway. So while we focus on the dreadfulness of Prince Andrew and the dreadfulness of Fergie, we kind of forget that there's this guy who's supposed to be the king's son over in California, who spent the last 5 years lobbing verbal hand grenades over the Atlantic at his dad, his family, calling them all racist, calling the entire nation slave drivers, and so on and so forth. So
and don't forget getting involved in U.S. politics that are none of his business as somebody that insists on using his continuing to use his title, signing that paperwork about wanting to control superintelligence, artificial intelligence last week. Sit down. You're not even a citizen of the United States. Why should you have any say over what our laws are in the States when it comes to artificial intelligence? I think he's just jealous because he has no intelligence whatsoever. So, you know, super intelligence really intimidates him.
Artificial or real, anything. Harry doesn't have any intelligence, a bit like his uncle Andrew. They're the two Dumbos of the royal family. And there are tremendous similarities insofar as both of them, Andrew and Harry, desperately trying to make money out of their royal title, something that Her late great Majesty Queen Elizabeth II would hated and despised, something the King doesn't like, but they're doing it. Harry's out there trying to make money out of being the Duke of Sussex, which he won't be after King William comes along. When William ascends to the throne, he'll get rid of Harry's titles, and he'll certainly get rid of Andrew's titles if he's still got them. Because, of course, although he agreed to stop using them last week, Kinsey, officially he still has them. We have to have an act of Parliament to strip him of those titles. The people of Britain, more than 80%, want that act of Parliament to happen. The King doesn't. Well, he's going to have to get used to it. We tell him what to do in these circumstances, not the other way round. We're in charge, not the royal family. We pay for them, they do what we tell them. And we will be telling His Majesty that Act of Parliament to strip Andrew of his titles that he doesn't want, it's going to happen 100%. But today, Kinsey, your thoughts on this, the front page of the Sun, we showed it earlier, 2 pads, Andy. Outrageously, this man, this liar and his lying wife, who basically clung on to a paedophile. Didn't care he was a paedophile, but he had $1 billion. So that's why they clung on to him. They wanted his money. Fergie's said to have taken $2 million off Jeffrey Epstein over the years.
I feel like you're forgetting the most important part. Apparently, they both have a foot fetish, which is something we
I didn't want to go into those things. But yes, indeed. Virginia Griffey chronicling what Andrew did to her on 3 continents. He denies it. No one believes him. She said he had a foot fetish and was very aggressive sexually. But so the King's been trying to get them. Everybody wants them out of the Royal Lodge, this 30-room mansion in the shadow of Windsor Castle. Looks like he's finally agreed that he might go, but in return, him and Fergie, because they both live there, are demanding 2 houses. Frogmore Cottage, that Harry and Meghan spent a couple of £1 million on, turning it into a beautiful place, and also Adelaide Cottage, where William and Kate currently live, but they're going to be moving to a much bigger place fairly soon. So in order to move out of this house, this huge place, Royal Lodge, used to be the Queen Mother's home, where he doesn't pay any rent, he's demanding 2 more houses. I just say it's time to tell this guy, you're on your own. You're on your own. You and Fergie, get out there, get a job or something. We're not giving you anything more, right?
Here's what my sources say. There is no negotiating with this guy. He has no terms. You can't negotiate. Like, it's my understanding, it's not if, it's when he moves out of Royal Lodge, as far as the powers that be, as far as they're concerned. So to hear that he would have the audacity to say, okay, I'll do it, but here's what I want in return, it doesn't surprise me based on some of the ways we've heard this man described in the past, the entitlement, the pure arrogance. But it's my understanding that he really doesn't have a leg to stand on. So whether he likes it or not, he's leaving Royal Lodge. And also, William's never going to go for this. With Prince Andrew in the Windsor vicinity, he becomes an incredible distraction for William's inevitable reign. He becomes, he remains a distraction for the British royal family. You know, he needs to go away, he needs to disappear. We don't need to see him on horseback. We don't need to see him anywhere near this family if the family wants to continue.
Yeah, a couple of points to make there. Apparently royal staff have been told don't give him any more horses to go on these strange little rides that he goes on around Windsor Great Park. But there's a story going around that his brother, the king, will still allow him to host shooting parties. Well, this is exactly what's got to stop. No more of this. No more privileges. Kick him out of Royal Lodge and tell him to make his own way in the world. We've had enough of him, haven't we?
Yeah, he's a distraction, and he is he's jeopardizing the future of the monarchy.
Yes, he is.
Jeopardizing Prince William's future, and the king should be considerate of that. Although I am within the party that believes that this is not just a king problem, that the Queen's team should have been much more aggressive in their handling of Andrew as well. Randy Andy.
Randy Andy, I remember the Randy Andy days. Coo Stark and all that. Yeah, he's been an embarrassment his whole life, and now he is. You're right, I mean, it's serious. Unless the king gets tough with this guy, and indeed the royal family, and indeed the country, the very future of the monarchy is at risk. Something needs to be done, and something needs to be done very fast. We're hearing that William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, are hoping to move into their new home by bonfire night, November the 5th. And they want Andrew gone from Royal Lodge by then. I think there's a momentum, there's a direction of travel here, but I don't think we want this guy given 2 homes in return for giving up the current home that he's got, and we don't want him being able to host shooting parties. He shouldn't be given horses. He should be told, look, this is it, mate. You're not a royal anymore. Go and get a job. Simple as that.
A legal one, please.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Kinsey, great to see you, and I will see you a little bit later. We're going to do some more work together. So the brilliant Kinsey Schofield, how exciting, in the studio. I will be with her later. When we come back, we're going to be talking about, I don't know if you saw these pictures, very kind of disconcerting pictures. Tower Hamlets, east of London. There was going to be a big UKIP demonstration about, you know, give back our land and Islamification and all that. The police banned the UKIP march, and they made that to relocate to central London, around about Hyde Park, around there. But the Muslim community of Tower Hamlets still staged their own demonstrations, saying basically, you know, this is our place, our territory, get off our territory. And they're all dressed up in masks and praying all over the street. It was a very strange sight. We'll talk about that after this break, so stay tuned.
Thankfully, when something really matters, the police service, particularly Metropolitan Police, remain absolutely excellent. This guy was actually stopped, having been spotted by patrolling officers, probably just after they'd had their Sunday morning breakfast, but they were sufficiently alert on a quiet Sunday morning to spot this guy walking down the street. So good work, and it shows that people are still out there actively hunting and looking for bad people. The actual action of finding him was like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, let's talk about what happened in the east of London at the weekend. Let's go straight over to my next guest, researcher, political theory and international relations expert, Ralph Schulhammer. Ralph, good morning.
Talk to you, Kevin. How are you doing?
Good to see you, mate. I'm doing fine. Now, what did you make of what we saw in the east of London, Tower Hamlets area? This was over the weekend. There was supposed to be a march on Saturday organised by UKIP, the right-wing party, and the police made them relocate to central London, so they weren't allowed to gather in this area. Instead, what we saw were hundreds and hundreds of masked Muslim men, you know, wearing hoodies, essentially shouting, you know, this is our territory, you're not going to take our territory, all praying on the road, essentially saying this is this is a Muslim country or a Muslim area, and you can't come here. What did you make of that? What does that mean, Ralph?
I think the most important thing in every society is to see where the energy is. And what you see in the UK, but you see it all over Europe, particularly in urban areas, the energy currently is with the Muslim part of the population. As there's always this odd argument when people say, well, look at the percentage, it's only 10% in the UK, it's only 15% in France. But at the end of the day, it's not numbers that matter, it's decibels. And what I mean by this is, and you just saw this there, is they can come out the numbers, and they're very good by now in intimidating the state. The government, and I think that's true in the UK, but it's true all over Europe, is afraid of their Muslim minority. I mean, we just recently saw videos where Islamists were following the Swedish Minister of Defense home and said, we're going to find out where you live. And by the way, something that you have reported on quite eloquently in the past, I think one of the reasons why we have very odd judicial decisions is because members of the judicial system, judges and others, I think they're just terrified. If they would be harsher in their sentencing and people would find out the addresses, you don't know what's going to happen. This is an intimidation of the public, but also of the state, and it's working.
Yeah, so these masked Muslim men, they basically announced that they were ready to defend their community, as if they're a separate country. Now, as I say, this strikes me as disconcerting. What they're basically saying is, this is our area, this is our nation, this is our country, our cultural zone, and the rest of you keep out. Now, UKIP were not allowed to march there. This march was not allowed to happen, which in itself I think is slightly disconcerting. I can understand the decision to keep the UKIP march away from Tower Hamlets, but that said, it's the right to protest. Now, ironically, what that march wanted to protest about was the increasing, as they see it, Islamification of Britain. That more and more towns are becoming unrecognisable to what they used to be, basically becoming Muslim communities, Islamic communities, particularly across the north. This is in East London. So, ironically, the UKIP march that was banned wanted to protest about the Islamification of Britain. The response was all these Muslim guys in masks carrying Bangladeshi and Palestine flags, saying this is our area and praying all over the streets. Kind of looks like the Islamification of Britain, doesn't it?
The ban proved the very point that UKIP was trying to make, absolutely. And I do not understand why few exceptions like yourself and others, why it is still so hard to accept that Islamification is a real thing. This is happening, especially in the cities. It started in the larger cities and it's now also spreading to the smaller ones. This is an odd conversation we have all over Europe where the reality is staring us into the face, but we still have let's call it a collusion between parts of the media and parts of the political class who says, no, don't trust your own eyes. Of course it's happening. It's everybody knows it. Just look at the schools, look at the maternity wards. Again, look where the energy is at the moment, and that is with the Muslim part of the population. Now, you and I think this is problematic. What bothers me the most is you can say this is bad and some people might say it is good, but what is really worrisome is that so many members of the elite are simply denying that it is happening at all, which makes the conversation almost impossible.
And why would you think, Ralph, that they're all wearing masks and hoodies? What is that about? Why is it they're so keen to mask their true identity?
Well, I guess this is the Hamas dress code. I think this is probably the best way to describe it, which shows, they look precisely, it's colder in the UK, so they're wearing heavier jackets, but other than that, they look precisely like the guys you just saw in the Gaza Strip, shooting at Palestinians because they dared to say something negative about Hamas. This is the other thing, right? You have the Islamification of Europe, of Western Europe, and you have the Hamasification of the Islamic population, because this is the other argument that is being made. Look at Bosnia, look at other places. There is also a radicalization, if you want, within the Islamic and the Muslim community. This is going into a very, very troublesome direction. The longer you deny reality, the harder it is going to hit you. And this is the direction in which we're going.
Right, Ralph, exactly right, and very good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Ralph Scholhammer there, researcher, political theory and international relations expert. What do you make of this? What you're seeing there? As Ralph said, I mean, it's like they're wearing the uniform of Hamas. Quite a disconcerting thing to see on our streets. Why are they all masked up? Why are they praying all over the streets? Why are they saying we're going to defend our community against the march of people who are worried about Islamification? Your thoughts on all of that? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, I'm going to be talking to Richard Tice. He is the Deputy Leader of Reform UK. Much to discuss with him. So if I were you, I would stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a little while.
Libya has become a major transit route for refugees, and many of them come through Libya dreaming of getting to the UK. Those asylum seekers or economic migrants who make it to the UK have a 99% chance of being given leave to remain.
There was a Union Jack flag put up and I took it down instantly. And some people might be watching this and thinking, well, Gary, not very patriotic.
No, look, he's a thick footballer, isn't he? Let's be clear.
I don't think he's thick.
Well, no,
he's not
I think
thick.
He is. No, I think he's thick on the basis that he sees it through that lens that somehow... But don't forget, he's talking about the context of the murders in that Manchester synagogue.
Yeah. The other enablers are the people who say don't talk about grooming gangs because we want to have a more community cohesion.
I suggest that, you know, there are certain Garys in the commentariat that might have headed the ball a bit too much in their careers.
Well, I had the misfortune to sit through the entire Keir Starmer.
So did I. When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does.
I don't know about you, I'm still kind of absorbing the kind of full content of that extraordinary speech. And I was still digesting it when up pops Nigel Farage with an absolutely extraordinary comeback.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists.
United Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom?
Behind you.
Where?
Oh, I'm here. Oh, there you are.
Very good.
Oh, Keir's coming forward.
It all came in like 20-minute notice.
Oh, he's come up to speak and Trump sent him away.
Others, and just so many others. And it's such a compliment to what we're doing, because what we've done is something very unique and very special. So it's perhaps the wealthiest and most powerful.
Right, cut him now. Cut that. Just stop Trump now. I had to wait for that, people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the, what is this now? The third hour, is it? I get so lost. I've been here for about 16 hours, only 20 hours to go. No, seriously. Good to have you back. We've got lots still to come. As I explained, in case you weren't up when the show started at 6 a.m., I am standing in for Mike Graham, obviously. You know what's going on. He is on leave while we investigate, or the company investigates, a post that appeared on his Facebook account. And until that investigation is complete, all we can do, folks, is wait. And that goes for you, it goes for me, it goes for everyone, it goes for Mike too. So I hope you understand, you know, I'm doing this show for my friend Mike while his Facebook is investigated. You understand that? So that said, Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for your patience, and let's get on with the show. My next guest is the incomparable Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Mr. Richard Tice. Morning, Richard.
Good morning to you, Kevin. What a glorious sunny morning here in central London.
It certainly is. Now, first of all, I need to get your thoughts. There's several issues that we must cover, Richard. But first of all, I need to get your thoughts on this fiasco we've just witnessed since Friday, the release of this Ethiopian sex offender, the most famous asylum or notorious asylum seeker offender in Britain. Somehow or other, Chelmsford Prison not only released him, they made a big thing of it. He was confused by this, milled around outside the jail for 90 minutes, kept going back in saying, "Are you sure about this?" The prison guards go, no, off you go, you've been released. And eventually, apparently, rather shirtily, this was witnessed, one of the prison guards said, "For God's sake, will you just leave? The station is down there on the left, now go and get a train." And then for 3 days he wandered around London. We're looking at footage of him going to the children's section of Dalston Library, you might like to know. We saw him in Dalston High Street Saturday morning, chatting away to the locals with his prison tracksuit on and his plastic bag full of prison possessions. And the police now busy patting themselves on the back. What a diligent search operation they mounted. Did they? I don't know. Didn't seem that great to me. David Lammy said, "I've gone down to thank the police for their excellent work." He's got questions to answer. The prison governor's got questions to answer. And the only reason this guy was caught because two decent members of the public, two women, saw him yesterday morning at 8:30 a.m. waiting at a bus stop in Finsbury Park in North London, and the police came and arrested him. So I don't think necessarily the police should be quite so effusive in patting themselves on the back. David Lammy, I think, in more principled times, would have to resign. The prison governor, questions have to be asked about him. Accountability. We need accountability here, don't we, Richard?
Well, we do indeed. And firstly, actually, let's thank those two women who made that call, having spotted the individual, the escaped prisoner, and done the right thing and called the police. And look, that's the good news. The rest of it, frankly, is like an episode from Mr. Bean. It's such a comical farce. It really is extraordinary. And you just wonder what is going on. There's all sorts of sort of buck passing by members of the prison service. And, well, there's now going to be a statement in the House of Commons later today by the Justice Secretary, David Lammy. It's just symptomatic of the complete collapse of our institutions. You can't really trust anybody to do anything well in critical public services anymore in so many areas.
Yeah, it's a snapshot. It's a snapshot of broken Britain, isn't it? I mean,
it is a snapshot of broken Britain, and it is straight out of a Mr. Bean episode. It's just laughable. A gentleman who sort of wants to be let back into prison because he thinks he should still be there. He shouldn't have been let out. He wasn't ready to come out. The prison officers determined that he should stay out when actually he should have stayed in. And it just absolutely bonkers. And then drifting around, it looks like drifting around libraries in the suburbs of London. You just couldn't make this stuff up.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. Now, David Lammy will be in the Commons. On the off chance they allow someone from Reform to ask a question, will he try and get one in? What would you ask him?
We will definitely get a question in, and you'll have to be a little bit patient, Kevin. We don't like to pre-inform the good ministers and Secretary of States on their feet, so we leave it to the very last minute. Tempting though it is, look, it's a catastrophe at every level. I would think that David Lammy, he'll be very embarrassed. And look, in a sense, it's not actually his fault, but it's whether or not he's got confidence in the governor of that prison in the processes. It's interesting though, isn't it? They've announced they're going to launch an inquiry into it. I wonder whether that inquiry will be set up and move rather faster than the vital, most important inquiry of all, which is the grooming gang inquiry, which of course is being kicked, the can of that is being kicked a long way down the road. So that's another question to ask the Secretary of State for Justice.
We're going to be talking to a rape gang victim later on who believes, and I think it's an incendiary line, she believes that the Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the Labour Party actually don't want this inquiry to happen, actually want to keep kicking the can down the road because they don't like the idea of what an investigation, a full national investigation, will reveal. They're worried about how it will make them look. So,
well, we know they don't want an inquiry because at the beginning of the year they said they didn't need an inquiry,
yes.
And they were forced, kicking and screaming, to finally order one, partly thanks to the pressure from Reform UK.
Indeed. Can I get a quick thought from you about what we saw in Tower Hamlets on Saturday? A UKIP march had been planned for Whitechapel, the Tower Hamlets area. The police banned them from going into that area because they thought it would be too divisive, too dangerous. So that march was moved back to central London around Hyde Park. But what we saw in Tower Hamlets was this, what we're looking at now. People in full Hamas uniform, if you like, covered from head to foot with masks, Muslim men saying we are here to defend our community, all praying across the street. Ironically, this march that was banned was to protest against what they see as the worrying advance of the Islamification of Britain. Well, we see scenes like this, you think, well, maybe they've got a point. These are Muslim men saying we are going to defend our community, dressed from head to foot like Hamas, and praying all over the streets. I mean, this is disconcerting, isn't it, Richard?
It's truly unbelievable that is a protest and a scene in the United Kingdom, frankly. And you have to ask a sort of perfectly reasonable question, which is why the need to mask up and hide your identity, hide your faces? Is it because you've got something to hide, or is it because actually you want to appear intimidatory, threatening, and able to harass and frankly frighten anybody who might be watching or drifting by? I mean, I think it was a very, very appalling sight. That is not what normal, sensible, decent protest in a democracy is all about. That was about intimidation. That was about get off my patch. We're in control here, folks. And it seems if you are of the pro-Gaza approach of that wing of politics, then you can pretty much now dress and do and say whatever you want. You can chant anti-Semitic chants all day, every day. No one will do anything about it. But if you're from any other political wing, then you're the wrong ones. And it's a very, very troubling development, frankly.
It certainly is. When people say Britain's getting Islamified, you look at these scenes and you think, well, maybe they've got a point. Listen, Richard, I hope you don't mind this rather awkward topic, but your fellow Reform MP, Sarah Poaching, came on to talk over the weekend, did a kind of phone-in, and the subject of kind of Christmas TV ads came up. And Sarah said that it drives me mad seeing adverts full of black and Asian people. This was during a live phone-in here on Talk. She later subsequently apologised, I think sort of saying, well, I probably framed that wrongly, not brilliantly anyway. Now, Wes Streeting picked up on this and while doing his media rounds yesterday made a real theme of it. Have a look at him.
I think what she said was a disgrace. I think it was racist, and the deafening silence from her party leader says it all. Reform is a party who think that our flag only belongs to some of us who look like me, not all of us who have built this country, built its success.
I mean, Wes Streeting, apparently he made a big thing of getting the media rounds yesterday. So everything he said, this was the translation. Can I be the next Prime Minister, please? That guy Keir Starmer's not working out. So look at me, I'm Wes Streeting. How about me? That's what that was all about. However, he's saying that Sarah Poshin was flat out racist in what she said about TV commercials. Do you accept that?
No, not at all. Look, this was a discussion about the sort of political correctness in the creative and advertising industry. And yes, Sarah apologised because the phraseology she used was wrong. She caused offence. She's apologised deeply for that. And that can happen in an interview. But what you do is you move on, you learn from it. And there are so many massive, massive issues, challenges facing the country that we should be spending our time on. But of course, the Labour Party are in such deep trouble. Of course, you're going to see the likes of Wes Streeting trying to claim a particular couple of words were racist. Look, the overall conversation was a conversation about political correctness and wokery. And the truth is, Labour Party is in deep, deep trouble. They're polling at record lows. They've just been absolutely trounced in the Caerphilly by-election. We got over 3 times the number of votes they secured. This was in the home of the Labour Party. And the challenges facing the country in terms of councils going bust, the country heading towards bankruptcy. Nothing works, as we have just touched on there. You've got the kicking the can down the road of the grooming gangs inquiry. You've got kowtowing to China. You've got giving away valuable strategic national assets like Chagos. These are the big issues that we should be talking about 24/7, 7 days a week, every day of the year. But instead, it's the Labour Party who wants to sort of bang on about division and language. I suggest they remember that they're in government. It's their job to make the lives of British citizens financially better off and our public services to work. And they are failing catastrophically at every level. So guess what? They're trying to throw a dead cat on the table. I repeat, in a perfectly reasonable overall discussion, Sarah's choice of words was wrong and she apologised. That's what you do. It's great, actually. When people have the humility to apologise, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. You learn from it and you crack on.
And I think also, Richard, we're going to move on from this topic now, but let's face it, we know what she's talking about. She's talking about woke adverts, TV commercials that we see all the time. If any of these Labour politicians like Wes Streeting would like now and again to pop into a pub and maybe meet some members of the public, you might find that a lot of people, if they don't agree with the way Sarah put it, they certainly agree with her sentiments.
Yeah, the bottom line is the Labour Party is under deep, deep pressure. Wes Streeting actually he's a well-meaning Secretary of State for Health who is trying to do some good in the health service, and he should be credited for that. But they're just in deep, deep trouble, and they're flailing around and lashing out, and that's the nature of politics. Look, we've got scars on the back. We keep learning every day, and we keep pushing on, and that's what we will all do, including the brilliant Sarah Poshin.
I saw in the papers yesterday, Richard, that you're all over the Sun. Very nice picture, by the way, very flattering, I thought. Talking about the extraordinary amount of waste that Reform are discovering around the country in the various councils that they've taken over, that they've won in local elections. And, of course, Zia Yousaf has sort of formed your own DOGE department, the Department of Government Efficiency. And you were talking about that some councils, it even looks as if they've been giving huge £1 million contracts for taxis whereby they might not even exist. The real corruption, real waste of money on an epic scale. Perhaps you could filter it into another big story that has emerged today, that is that the Home Affairs Select Committee has issued or released a very damning report on Home Office staff who they say have wasted billions on migrant hotel contracts. They've had rings run round them by private contractors. These Home Office civil servants mostly never worked in the private sector, no financial imperative. Basically, they've been conned left, right and centre and ended up giving billions of our taxpayers' money to the Home Office to give to these private companies that run asylum seeker hotels and other services. Also, this report slams Home Office staff, civil servants, for making no efforts to make impact assessments on asylum seeker hotels. So if you take, say, the Bell Hotel in Epping, what they've done is say, oh, that'll do, put 100 migrants in there. No thought about the local community, no examination of the local community, how it will affect them. So this report couldn't be more damning if it tried. The civil service not fit for purpose, the Home Office a catastrophe, and on the migrant crisis goes in all its lack of glory. Your thoughts?
Well, the whole philosophy of DOGE, which stands for Department of Government Efficiency, is the philosophy of saving money. All of your listeners and viewers know that the waste in councils is legendary. The waste in government departments, as you've just been alluding to, is legendary. And so Zia started this process, and we're going to be talking a lot about that in the coming weeks, because we're coming up to 6 months of taking over these councils. So we've actually got a huge amount to say. It started very, very well. I'm delighted to take it on from Zia as he is focusing on the huge task of overall head of policy, and he's working very closely with Danny Kruger. And you're going to be hearing a lot from Reform in press conferences over the coming weeks about what we've been achieving to date on all of this and our plans for the future. But yes, we know the Home Office has been unfit for purpose, frankly, for about 20 years. I mean, I think it was John Reid from the Labour Party.
That was in the 90s, I think. So we're talking about probably 30 years.
Yeah, it could be. And it seems that actually, far from improving and learning lessons, which we should all do when we make mistakes, they're getting worse. And you've got a department that's utterly incompetent, and the sort of expose by the Select Committee on the hundreds of millions, the billions being wasted. We know that some of these hotel owners have now become some of the richest people in the United Kingdom, and it's just it makes your heart weep, actually, because those in genuine need, the genuinely vulnerable, the genuinely disabled, children with genuine special needs, they're actually not getting the provision they want because all this money is being wasted elsewhere. And so budgets are unbelievably tight and taxes are unbelievably high and going higher, and the economy is heading south. I mean, the direction of travel is a catastrophe. And I'm afraid, folks, it's going to get worse before it gets better under a Reform government. Of that, I must be honest with everyone.
Richard, pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. That's Richard Tice, MP, Deputy Leader of Reform UK. Let me know what you think about some of the things he was saying. Yeah, particularly, we need to talk about this prisoner fiasco. Also, the Home Office just wasting billions and billions of our pounds, our taxpayers' money, on contracts that they don't need to give, money they don't need to be giving out. We are, in the grip of incompetent fools, and they're wasting our money. 03444 991,000. We're also in the grip of a government that clearly doesn't want to hold a public inquiry into the rape gang scandal. That in itself is a scandal. Kicking the can down the road. If we're lucky, we will get a rape gang inquiry next year. It was in early June that the Prime Minister was persuaded by Louise Casey's report on the rape gang scandal. 250,000 victims, they think, all across the nation, including in London, despite what Sadiq Khan, the mayor, says. We demand an inquiry. This government said, all right, we'll have one in June. They still haven't even got a chairperson to preside over it. Down and down the road they keep kicking this can, and that in itself has become a whole new scandal. When we come back, we'll talk to a grooming gang victim. We'll get her view on all of this, and spoiler alert, she believes that Keir Starmer doesn't want this investigation to ever start because he doesn't fancy what it will reveal. So we'll talk to a grooming gang victim after this break.
The police have their man. This guy's going to be detained, and now he will be deported to Ethiopia. What a sorry tale.
I mean, it's like something out of Inspector Clouseau, and now we'll see if he's actually deported or whether, like the so-called one in, one out, he just hops back on another boat back here again.
Yes, will lessons be learnt from this, Sir Michael?
Given that he went back several times to the prison saying, let me back in, I just wonder whether he went up to a policeman and said, look, will you please arrest me? I want to get back in.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we'll talk to Jack Elson, the political editor at The Sun. But first, let's talk about the grooming gang. Well, let's not call it the grooming gang. It's a rape gang, the rape gang scandal. As I was just saying, God knows when this national inquiry, a public inquiry that the government promised us, will actually start. But the victims are getting more and more annoyed. 4 of them last week quit the national inquiry. 4 of them quit, saying that the government was trying to change the remit. In other words, widen the remit out so that the finger of blame wasn't pointed directly at the perpetrators, most of whom are Muslim men of Pakistani heritage. Simple as that. Government doesn't like the idea of that, so they were trying to sort of widen the remit. More and more victims who were part of a thing called the Victims Panel quit last week. Tremendously bad week for the Prime Minister on that front. Now, our next guest, I'm not going to name her because she doesn't want to be named, but she's a grooming gang victim. And she was in the papers yesterday. I saw a story and I was very struck by it. I'll ask her about this now. So, welcome to the show.
Hi, you all right?
I'm good, I'm good. Now, you were quoted in the papers yesterday. You said something very striking, that you believe that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, doesn't want this inquiry. He doesn't want it to happen because he doesn't fancy what it will reveal. Before you answer this question, can we just have a look? Bear with me. We'll just have a quick look at the Prime Minister boasting about what a fantastic public inquiry we were going to have into this. Okay, doesn't seem to be ready. Okay, well, listen, your thoughts about that. We'll play the clip from the Prime Minister in just a second. But do you believe that Keir Starmer and Labour are trying to avoid this inquiry altogether? Because don't forget that he announced it in early June. Here we are, 5 months on. They haven't even got anybody to be a chairperson of it. They're saying, unlikely it'll start until next year. So they're kicking the can down the road and really letting people like you down. Do you think they're trying to avoid it altogether?
Absolutely, yeah. Because if you look back back at January when Elon Musk brought it back up, and it rose the public, the Labour Party took part in bad attitudes, like calling people jumping on the far-right bandwagon. You've got Lucy Powell's calling it a dog whistle, and we essentially had to take to the streets, me included, to campaign for something that we should have been able to have years ago. And he let that happen up until June, when he knew that he had to back down. So yet again, we become this big political thing.
Yeah, go on. I've got another. I want to. Ellie Reynolds, your fellow victim, has become quite a good friend of mine, and she was talking about one issue that I'll run past you in just a second. But we got that clip of the Prime Minister now, so have a look at this, and we'll resume this conversation after Keir talks.
This inquiry, in direct answer to your question, must go where the evidence takes it, and I'll be absolutely clear about that. And if that's questions of ethnicity, that's questions of the role of public officials, if it's questions of assumptions that were made that shouldn't have been made, all of that needs to be uncovered. No stone will be left unturned here.
Well, there is the Prime Minister boasting about, if it's a question of ethnicity, we won't shy away from that. We'll go where the evidence takes us. Well, Ellie Reynolds was telling me last week, she's one of the girls who's resigned from the victims panel. She said that with dealing with Jess Phillips, dealing with the government, that what annoyed her, and I think it's the story, is this, that of course that you, Ellie, and all the other victims, you want this inquiry to reveal who did it to you. And predominantly the people who were in the rape gangs were Muslim men of Pakistani heritage. The government, Ellie said, they're trying to widen the remit so they don't have to point the finger of blame towards Islamic men. Is that the way you see it as well?
Absolutely. It's what you call an elephant in the room that they don't want to approach. This is a thing where I think often is if my perpetrators were white British men or another race, would we be still facing this?
But the people who did this to you were not white men. They were Muslim men of Pakistani heritage, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So that the government is trying to avoid that, and I think that's what's quite rightly really upsetting people like yourself. And Jess Phillips, the alleged so-called safeguarding minister, other victims have called for her to resign. What happened last week in Parliament was this, that she stood up because I think yourself, Ellie, and the others said, look, we're not. You're treating us with contempt. You're not listening to us. You won't allow us to point the finger at the people who did this to us, and so on and so forth. You're widening the remit. You're trying to change the whole nature of this inquiry. She stood up and said, essentially, that you're all lying. That's not true. So she called the victims liars. Other victims have said, this woman, Jess Phillips, must go, and that you won't return to the inquiry unless she does. Do you want to? Are you calling for Jess Phillips to resign as well?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I left the inquiry. Yeah, I don't want her in that role. I don't think she's interested. She's become chaotic. She's become volatile. She's actually called us liars, knowing that we had evidence to prove otherwise. And I think if she can't represent us in a proper way, then she needs to do the right thing, walk away.
Exactly right. And just generally, how are you feeling? Because Ellie was telling me last week that she feels like she's going through the same thing all over again. The authorities not listening to her, treating her with contempt, turning their back. When you and Ellie and the gang say, listen, let's talk about who did this to us. Oh, no, let's widen the remit so we don't have to talk about who actually did this. Are you feeling in some ways that you're getting the same treatment from the authorities that you did back in the dark days when you were being abused?
Absolutely. We've always been silenced. I mean, I'm 38, and Rotherham has managed to silence me for 24 years. Well, tried to. So I've only had a small period of my life where, one, it's been normal, and number two, it hasn't been suppressed.
And you would only go back to the inquiry on the basis that Jess Phillips goes?
Yeah, Jess Phillips has got to go. Absolutely.
Well, listen, it's a bit awkward that I can't name you. I feel like I've been very unfriendly to you.
No, but I didn't want my face showing, but it's Elizabeth from Rotherham.
Yeah, no, it's Elizabeth, isn't it? Elizabeth from Rotherham, yeah. Well, listen, Elizabeth, I really appreciate you coming on. You look after yourself and we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's Elizabeth from, she did say, well, you heard that, she said you can call me Elizabeth. Elizabeth from Rotherham, a victim when she was underage. She has resigned from the inquiry, won't go back until Jess Phillips quits as safeguarding minister. Same for Ellie Reynolds, same for the other girls who've quit. This is the shambles, this is a mess. And as Elizabeth was just saying, as far as she's concerned, the Prime Minister and Labour do not want this inquiry ever to happen. And you know why, because mostly it happened in these horrors unfolded in Labour areas. A lot of Labour politicians turning their blind eye. Keir Starmer was Director of Public Prosecutions from 2008 until 2013. He wasn't exactly well, this is the worst of the time. This was the worst of the times when the rape gang scandal was at its worst. Still going on, by the way. It's still happening all over the country. And Keir Starmer, as the DPP, wasn't massively proactive. Towards the end of his tenure, 2008 to 2013, one or two rape gang members started to get prosecuted, but he doesn't emerge from this in flying colours, so the Prime Minister's not keen on it either. Your thoughts? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, Jack Elson, the political editor of The Sun, will join us, so stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan in for Mike Graham. This is Morning Glory, and we're going to go straight over now to the political editor of The Sun, Jack Elsom. Hello, Jack.
Morning, Kev. How are you?
I'm OK, mate. Let's talk about your colleague Rod Liddle. He's got a great column in The Sun this morning, page 10, warping an inquiry into rape. Nothing is more wicked. It is a classically eloquent condemnation by Rod of the government's whole handling of this ongoing scandal. There has been no greater criminal scandal in the past 50 years than the mass rape and sexual abuse of young white girls at the hands of middle-aged, largely Muslim men. More than 1,000 kids, etc. He says more than 1,000 kids. He's actually being rather economic with the truth there. We understand that the actual number of victims around the country, mostly vulnerable young white girls, many of them underage, could be as many as 250,000. So Rod really is fizzing with rage here about the way the government never wanted this inquiry. Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, said she didn't want it. The Prime Minister, not necessary. Oh, we don't need a national inquiry. Then along came Louise Casey's report. The Prime Minister in early June said, I've read this, I have no choice now but to call a national inquiry, a public inquiry. And here we are, 5 months on, still no chairperson. 4 victims quit the inquiry last week, saying the government's trying to widen the remit so that the finger of blame is not pointed at the ethnicity of the culprits, the rape gang members, and so on and so forth. Basically, Rod saying there is nothing more wicked than the government's attitude to this much-needed public inquiry. Your thoughts, Jack?
Yeah, well, summed up brilliantly as ever, Kev. You know, Rod Liddle, I think, reflects the absolute boiling rage on behalf of most of the people in this nation. One of the most shameful stains on our country's modern history, but also often, you know, the crime is bad enough, the cover-up is even worse. And I think that for a Prime Minister essentially had to be dragged kicking and screaming into this national inquiry, to then bungle it so badly, as we have now seen, many people will think is totally unforgivable. You know, at the heart of this, as Rod points out, is the safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips. And listen, you know, I think Jess Phillips is someone that has spent a lot of time, talking about the issue of grooming domestic abuse throughout her career, gets a lot of hate online, but it doesn't excuse, I don't think, what some of these victims have come out and saying. And you rightly point out that 5 victims last week decided to quit the inquiry. Now, throughout this, the government has said consistently, when it comes to the national inquiry, we will be led by the victims and the survivors. How does that tally up with not even really seeming to listen to the claims and concerns by these 5 victims, one of whom just spoke to you, in which they tell a pretty dismal picture of what it was like being on that panel? They said that it was a toxic environment. They said that their concerns were brushed under the carpet. They didn't want the inquiry diluted to essentially be widened to talk about things beyond the race and ethnicity of the grooming perpetrators, which we know from Louise Casey's report, there's a disproportionate amount of South Asian men who were involved with this. And so I think now the government have got themselves into a position where both of the leading candidates have pulled out, and it could well stretch into next year before this inquiry even appoints a chairperson and gets off the ground. And many people will just think, you know, what the hell are they waiting for? You know, this needs to happen pretty damn quickly. You know, this is a scandal stretching back decades now, and still, when finally we're in a position where we can launch a national inquiry, it's seen that it's been totally fudged.
Indeed, the victims very angry, actually. A couple of the potential chair people of this inquiry. One was an ex-social worker, and the other was an ex-copper. The victims going, no, 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 this is exactly the kind of person we don't want chairing this inquiry. These are the people, not saying that the actual candidate candidates for this job were guilty, but it was social workers and coppers, teachers, local politicians who turned their back, turned a blind eye to what was going on. We don't want one of them being the chair of this inquiry. So that was lead-footed by the government, to say the least. Those two candidates have disappeared. They don't want to do the job anyway. But what's going on with Jess Phillips? I mean, the girls, the poor girls, the victims on the victims panel, just saying they will not return to this inquiry unless she goes. I don't know what her interaction with them has been like. That was a private affair, but I saw her last week in the Commons, and she needs to raise her game, because first of all, she effectively called the victims liars. Because the victims are going, well, they won't let us talk about the ethnicity and the religion of the perpetrators, of the gang members. We don't want that. She said, that's not true. We're not widening the remit of the inquiry. Well, they clearly were trying to. But it's her whole attitude, in part, sort of a mixture of being bored by it, finding it tedious, dare I say it, is this another dog whistle issue sort of thing, and being angry about it, very angry. No, her attitude in the Commons didn't coat her in glory, I don't think, and there's a problem with her. These girls will not go back to the inquiry unless she goes. Do you think she has to walk the plank?
Well, in relation to that Commons appearance last week, I think that, it really, maybe across the House shows politics at its worst. It's clearly a very emotive issue. People are very angry about what happened to tens of thousands of young, mainly white girls in lots of towns in this country. But I think there is a way of dealing with stuff from the dispatch box, and it is not to essentially, bellow and slap down any concerns raised by the other side of the House, which I think is what she was accused of doing, especially then to doubt the claims of the initial 4 survivors who quit the panel in that pretty excoriating letter to Shabana Mahmood, in which they said that they didn't believe the panel was now fit for the job and they didn't think that Jess Phillips was up for the job. In terms of Jess Phillips's immediate future, listen, I think the Keir Starmer probably will stick by her for a couple of reasons. I think, first of all, I don't think he wants to chuck her to the wolves, in a sense, and I think that there is a feeling that that was what would happen if he did ditch her from the post. But also, in terms of a wider issue, which isn't just related to the grooming gang scandal, Keir Starmer has now had a habit of backing people pretty vociferously. The pressure builds, he then cracks, and he then sacks them. I think some are calling it the back crack and then sack campaign.
Back crack and sack.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that he's now getting pretty sensitive, to these allegations. It happened, obviously, Peter Mandelson. It happened with, Angela Rayner and the rest of them. And so I now think that he's trying a bit harder to stick by his ministers and try and weather some pretty strong headwinds. But the problem with that tactic, Kev, is that as the pressure does build, positions do become unsustainable. And at what point do you stick by someone when it's evident that they may no longer not just command the respect of their own side, but also the most importantly here, the respect of the victims? And clearly that is what the government is now at risk of doing by putting themselves on the wrong side of not all the victims, but a fair few of them who have come out in pretty strong voice. They do, I think, expose themselves to the claims. They're not taking this as seriously as they should be.
Yeah, I think Jess Phillips has got one statement to worry about, and that will be the moment when Keir Starmer pledges his full support and his full confidence in her. Then she'll be gone. But ask Peter Mandelson, ask Angela Rayner. When Keir backs you to the hilt, you're finished. Jack, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Jack Elsom there, political editor of The Sun. When we come back, more from The Sun, we're going to talk about sport. Charlie Wyatt, the football editor of The Sun, will be with us with a review of some of the sport over the weekend. So that next, stay tuned.
should never have happened in the first place, and the Justice Secretary and Home Secretary should apologise to the British people for allowing this man to be released. There should be a proper investigation into exactly what went wrong. This does also raise wider questions about the consequences of illegal immigration into the country. The first 9 months of this year have been the worst in history for illegal crossings of the Channel, and this man was, of course, one of those. And within just 8 days of arriving illegally by small boat, he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Time now for what I believe they call 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds.
Charlie White,
From
the
the
football
Sun.
editor of The Sun, to talk about some of the events and results over the weekend. Welcome, Charlie.
How are you?
I'm good. A couple of stories, I guess. Well, Arsenal beat Crystal Palace. I don't think that was a great surprise. Brilliant goal by former Crystal Palace player Eze. Great goal, I thought. I thought perhaps the story of the weekend, though, was Liverpool. 4 defeats in a row. What's going on there?
Unbelievable. I mean, you know, everything that's happening now, we sort of thought was going to happen a year ago after Jurgen Klopp left. So it's sort of this delayed reaction of a new manager, and obviously their legendary coach has gone. Obviously, they did really well last year, but they basically they basically signed too many people. They made too many changes in the summer, and as you say, 4 successive league defeats. What a weekend for Arsenal, with Liverpool losing, Manchester City losing. I mean, looking at the league table, you've got Arsenal at the top, Bournemouth second, Tottenham third, and Sunderland fourth. I mean, it's the most unlikely league table. And to be honest, Kevin, it's a good job. We need things freshening up a bit. We don't need Arsenal to sleepwalk their way to the title, because it was a bit boring last year with Liverpool. So let's hope there's a title race, but there's definitely some different teams up there, and football needs that.
Yeah, and I mean, I take your point. It's always best when you don't really know who's going to win the league. But the way it looks now, Charlie, is it's Arsenal's to lose, isn't it?
It is. I mean, they've been bridesmaids for the last 3 years. They've finished, runners-up on 3 occasions now. Mikel Arteta's been given another 250 million quid this summer, so we can't say he's not been given the money. Arsenal look strong. They've got 2 good players for every position, and I know what you're saying. They were comfortable yesterday without being brilliant. Palace aren't a bad team. Let's not forget that. I think Arsenal are going to win the title, but as you said at the start, Liverpool's an extraordinary story to lose, 4 Premier League games. For the champions to lose 4 games in a row is amazing. And just when we thought Manchester City were picking up, they lose again at Aston Villa. So it was an incredible weekend, and let's hope we have a few more lively ones like it as well.
Charlie, great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
You get to talk about the big story. Fulham got outrageously losing to Newcastle. Didn't deserve it. And, how long before we're challenging for the top? I think Arsenal ought to worry about Fulham. Well, that's my point anyway. I'm a Fulham fan. We're not doing very well, just above the relegation zone. We've lost 4 games in a row, but we ain't no Liverpool. Right, well, let's move straight on. Well, we've been talking, of course, about the prison release fiasco of our Ethiopian friend. And let's talk to Reform UK's Justice Advisor and, of course, former prison governor, Vanessa Frake. Welcome to the show, Vanessa.
Morning, Kevin.
Well, your thoughts about what happened at Chelmsford Jail. If you were the governor of Chelmsford Jail, given what happened on Friday. How would you be feeling right now?
Frustrated, angry, probably packing my office up, to be honest with you.
Yes. I mean, let's be serious about this for a second. I've been saying all day, you know, I don't like calling for people to lose their jobs, and I'm not necessarily convinced that one prison officer getting suspended so far is enough. This is about accountability. The governor surely has got some serious questions to answer here.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, the buck stops with him. And I agree with you, Kevin. You know, there are so many checks that should have been done. I don't see how they can, you know, throw one person to the wolves, that it's all their fault. And I would hope that when the investigation is finished, that we will find out some answers as to exactly what went wrong. But, you know, overcrowding, staff shortages, prisons under pressure, you know, it's not surprising that this has happened. And if things don't change, it will happen again. It doesn't matter how many checks you put in place. At the end of the day, if it's down to human error, the systematic failures will continue.
Exactly right. I mean, very, very worrying. I mean, the actual details are just alarming. That the fact this guy got released, milled around outside Chelmsford Jail for 90 minutes, no idea what to do, kept going back to the prison and said, "You sure about this?" And in the end, one prison officer, apparently this was witnessed, very angrily sort of said to him, "Look, the station's down the road on the left, will you just get out of here?" So they were determined to release him. Now, with your knowledge of release procedure, Vanessa, I mean, how could this even ever happen?
Well, I mean, you know, you've only heard sort of little bits and pieces as they sort of drip feed us what went on. But to my mind, it looks like that he was in a holding cell with a lot of other normal discharges, discharged to release, and they were gathered all up. I mean, his identity and his discharge papers should have been checked at the gate. It doesn't sound particularly like this happened. You said about the officers directing him here, there and everywhere to the train station. You have to remember, Kevin, the gates now, because of cuts, are run by operational support grades. They're not prison officers.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
The same as PCOs. They don't have...
Wait a second, Vanessa. The people on the gates of a prison, at the doors of a prison, are not prison officers. They're subcontracted.
Well, they're called operational support grades. They wear a uniform, black and white, the same as prison officers, but they don't have the same. They don't have the powers of arrest as a prison officer does. They don't get engaged with fighting with prisoners, that sort of thing. They're usually used for non-prisoner places, so like your communications room, your gate, your canteen, that sort of places.
Yeah. So this is compromised prisons, right? This system.
Without a doubt, you know, they're not trained to the same standard as prison officers. What they should have done is rang up their manager and said, "Look, we've got some guy here, keeps going on about being deported. What do we do with him?"
Yeah, keeps going on about, "I don't think you should be releasing me."
Yeah. I mean, should have, could have, would have. Do you know what I mean, Kevin? It's a farce, isn't it? And you know, I feel very sorry for the parents and the victims of his attack.
That's the most important point. That there are two women who are this guy's victims, and they'll be very upset about this. A very important point to make. Vanessa, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Vanessa Frake, former prison governor, you Reform UK's justice advisor. Let me know what you think about that. 03444 991 1000. When we come back after the news, I'm going to be joined by the Mail on Sunday's political commentator, Dan Hodges, so you don't want to miss that. Lots and lots to talk about. Get your calls in. 03444 991 1000. See you on the other side of the news.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, I've been on air for 3 hours. Normally I'd be sort of like down the pub by now because that's the end of the show. But apparently when you do breakfast, you've got to do 4 hours. So here I am. Just in case you're not aware of this, Mike Graham is still on leave. I'm in for Mike. That said, let's get on with the show. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the programme now the Mail on Sunday's excellent commentator, columnist Dan Hodges. Welcome, Dan.
Morning.
Well, first of all, your thoughts on the big story of the weekend. David Lammy will face the Commons today to be asked questions about what the hell happened with this Ethiopian migrant, the most notorious, best-known asylum seeker, sex offender in the country, released by mistake by Chelmsford Jail, apparently 4 or 5 times tried to go back, so I'm not sure that this is right. No, get the hell out of here. Eventually, angrily, they told him, look, the station's down there. Will you just go and get on the train? It's on the left up there. Off he went. Arrested yesterday morning, finally, when 2 members of the public, 2 women, saw him waiting at a bus stop in Finsbury Park in North London. Police now slapping themselves on the back, saying, oh, what a marvellous, diligent operation. No, you got a lucky phone call. David Lammy going down to the cop shop saying, I'm here because it's part of my constituency. I want to thank the police for this magnificent operation. Well, I would think that David Lammy should be very worried. I mean, in the old days, he would lose his job over this. I don't suppose he will this time, but he's got serious questions to answer. The prison governor, a guy called Mark Howard, must surely be on the rack about this. The fact that all we've got so far is 1 prison officer has been suspended, that's not enough. We are in an accountability situation. We need accountability, don't we?
We certainly do. I mean, obviously, we have to wait for the details of this. I mean, I've got to be honest. I mean, obviously, David Lammy has only been in post a relatively short amount of time. This seems to be, an operational failure rather than a policy failure. But the broader issue is this, this just staggering incident is just feeding in to a general perception that the government, whether rightly or wrongly, just is not able to manage even the basics. I mean, we're having a huge national debate at the moment about whether or not and how we detain and deport illegal migrants, how in particular we detain and deport dangerous illegal migrants. And we've got a situation here where even when those illegal migrants present themselves to the authorities and say, in this case, literally, I want to go back to prison, the authorities just let them walk free. And if we, and I think what most people will be saying is, look, if we couldn't even keep under lock and key and deport this guy, how are we seriously gonna keep under lock and key and deport the large numbers of people that do need to be removed from the country?
I've just got this statistic here that between April 2024 and March 2025, so up until March this year, the Prison and Probation Service accidentally released 262 prisoners that shouldn't have been released. So that figure's quite alarming. I've just interviewed a former prison governor called Vanessa Frake, who revealed to me something I think is quite shocking, that actually the people on the gates of the doors of prisons, the ones who maintain the big gates, are not prison officers. They're subcontracted people, with a lesser job. That might be something we need to look at. We need serious professionals on the gates, don't we?
Well, quite clearly we do. I mean, you would think opening and shutting a gate would be a pretty basic element of incarcerating dangerous people. But I mean, it may well be that part of the issue is that the sort of cascade of privatisation of just about every aspect of public services over the last few years and the last couple of decades, maybe that needs to be looked at again. But as I say, we've got to wait for the details of this. But the broader issue is, as I say, it just feeds into this narrative that basically the government could not, that the current government couldn't run a world school, you know, and that's the basic political problem. And in a sense, you know, David Lammy, I don't think is quite clearly not going to resign over this, and it may well be right that he doesn't resign over this. But the broader political damage has already been done, because you just cited the number of people who are accidentally released every year. I mean, there comes a point for a government where you just can't catch a break. It doesn't matter what you do. And Keir Starmer is reaching that point now. I mean, the chances that one of those people happened to be the most high-profile illegal migrant in the country, following on from all the issues we've seen over the last year, I mean, frankly, I just don't know how Keir Starmer is going to turn around his political fortunes, because, I mean, this is just it's getting beyond a joke now, frankly.
It is. I mean, what we saw over this weekend was like a sort of snapshot of the broken Britain that Starmer presides over, if you like, two-tier Keir's broken Britain. And he had a terrible, terrible week last week. I want to ask you something, Dan. I read, I can't remember what it was, about a week ago. You wrote a column for the Mail, and the intro, the first paragraph, was extremely striking. I believe it was the Prime Minister Keir Starmer lied to the House of Commons yesterday. And this was about the Chinese spy trial. And you unequivocally said in your newspaper, in your column, the Prime Minister lied to the House of Commons. That's an extraordinary thing for someone in your position to be able to say. Tell us why you were justified in saying that.
Well, as you say, I think that column was written either a week ago or over a week ago, and you're right. It's obviously a very serious charge to make against any prime minister, and it wasn't one I made lightly. But it was quite clear from the evidence, and that had been presented at that time, and it was quite clear what Keir Starmer and other ministers had said to the House of Commons, particularly in this idea that their hands were somehow tied by what the position of the Conservative government at the time the spying offences took place, that their hands had somehow been tied by that. And that, even at that point, it was quite clear that wasn't the case. But since I've written that article, we've had a series of about half a dozen additional lies from the Prime Minister and from ministers about this case. It goes from, as I say, what they were able to say. It goes to what was actually in the witness statements that were presented on behalf of the government. It's about what people knew and when they know it. And just about every single statement of significance that we've had on this issue has turned out not to be true. And the reality is, we've got. I think my understanding is we've got more evidence sessions on this taking place today, and we will find out once those sessions are over that ministers will either have directly lied or will have misled Parliament about the nature of this scandal.
And I mean, did you have any comeback when you, with that, as I say, that very striking intro, as we say in journalism, your first paragraph, the Prime Minister lied to the House of Commons yesterday. Any word back from his office? Because
look, I'm not going to go into the details of conversations I have with his office. I think it's fair to say that it was communicated that there were some concerns.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
My article, but. As I say, I mean, I can only say what the facts demonstrate. Since then, we've had it demonstrated beyond a shadow of doubt that what the Prime Minister and his ministers said to the House of Commons was not true.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we've had some trouble. I mean, Mike and me and various people here have quite regularly called the Prime Minister a liar, because he does have this tendency to lie. And you get these kind of, oh, you called the Prime Minister a liar yesterday. And we basically say, well, that's because he did lie. And then it just goes away. So we've got this extraordinary spectacle of a government. It's not just him. This cabinet, their default setting when in trouble seems to be to tell fibs, and that is not acceptable. You talked earlier, Dan, about this general perception of Keir Starmer presiding over a country that's falling apart, that his government just is not fit for purpose, that he is not a competent Prime Minister. We had the Caerphilly result last week, which was catastrophic for Labour. They lost Caerphilly down in Wales, a constituency they've held literally forever. They've lost that. They lost it badly. That result will have been algorithmically analysed left, right and centre by the statisticians, by the number 10 down numbers people. They will have worked out that Keir Starmer is untenable, surely, going forward. How much longer do you think he can last? How much longer can he hang on? It won't be for that much longer, will it?
No, I mean, I thought basically next year's local elections would be the tipping point. But we've had, but frankly, I mean, we had the local election, we had the Labour deputy leadership election over the weekend, in which Keir Starmer's chosen candidate and hand-picked candidate, Bridget Phillipson, was roundly defeated in what was effectively a sort of a de facto referendum on Keir Starmer's leadership. And that was, that wasn't just members of the public voting, that was sort of hardcore Labour members and MPs who were involved in that contest. And as you said, in addition to that, we had last week, I mean, the week from hell doesn't even begin to describe it. I mean, it was just day after day of another litany of failure from the government. And as I said last week, on really serious issues, on issues like lying to the House on the government's China policy, on the collapse of the immigration policy, on the failure to protect the Jewish community in this country. We're not talking, as I said, we're not talking, the Dangerous Dogs Bill or the Combs Hotline. These are really fundamental structural problems at the heart of government, and Keir Starmer quite simply and quite obviously can't grip them. So I think the only question for me now, speaking to ministers, speaking to Labour MPs, is whether or not Keir Starmer can actually make it to the local elections, frankly. I think he probably can, but be under no illusion, he has no more political capital left. If there were to be one more major political crisis or political scandal or political screw-up between now and May, then I think at that point Labour MPs are going to move. And the key thing to remember as well is this: all of this, everything we've been seeing, all the chaos, that is all going to just look like a hill of beans compared to what's going to happen to the government when Rachel Reeves stands up in the budget and basically has to turn around and say, when I said I wouldn't come back for more taxes, when I said I wouldn't come back for more spending, when I said I won't come back for more borrowing, that was all a lie as well. Yeah. At that point, it's frankly game over for Keir Starmer. But then it's game over already. So.
Yeah, will she blame Brexit for her budget, do you think?
She'll blame Brexit, she'll blame, Rishi Sunak, she'll blame Liz Truss, she'll probably blame Ange Postecoglou, she'll blame the weather, she'll blame absolutely everybody but herself. But obviously it won't work. I mean, it simply won't. It simply won't work. People just won't put up with the excuses anymore. I
mean, this mansion tax she's talking about, whereby everybody with who owns a home worth more than £2 million will have to start paying 10 grand extra, presumably if you have a house per year this is. Presumably if you have a house worth 4 million, it'll be 20,000 and so on and so forth. Somebody pointing out this morning, well, who's going to do these valuations? I could see that is going to be a real difficult area, because people are going to go, well, we have estimated your house is worth £3 million. People are going, well, I say it's not. So going forward, this mansion tax, taxing people on their property value, I think is going to present a world of difficulty, a world of trouble.
Well, look, frankly, if Rachel Reeves was going to raise taxes in a way that protected working people, genuine working people, and solely asked the richest to pay a little bit more, I think that in normal political circumstances, that would be politically sustainable for her. But the problem with Rachel Reeves and what Rachel Reeves is about to announce is, as I said, it's not going to be about what she announced. It's about what she said last year and the cast iron promises she gave last year and what she's actually done now. And the budget is not going to be about economics. It's going to be about trust. And basically, the Tories are going to turn around and they are going to say, see, Labour lied, Rachel Reeves lied, Keir Starmer lied, you simply can't trust them. And the problem for Labour is that will be proved to be 100% correct. And what Rachel Reeves will do is, yes, she will try and say, I am simply ring-fencing these tax increases for those who are the wealthiest in our society, but people are going to look at property taxes, they're going to look at the other taxes that she's introducing, and they're going to think, it's starting there, but by the end of this, because of the direction of travel, it's going to end up with me. Rachel Reeves, whatever she says, is going to end up taxing me. Rachel Reeves is going to say, no, don't trust me. No, trust me. I'm only going to tax rich people. But this is the point. No one's going to trust her anymore. No one's going to believe her. On the day she sits down, having delivered the budget, which raises taxes, having pledged not to raise taxes, Rachel Reeves' political and economic credibility are over. It's over for her, and it's over for Keir Starmer at that point.
One other area, Dan, big trouble for the Labour government, ongoing trouble, obviously, is the migrant crisis. Lucy Powell, who won the election to become the deputy leader of the party, that was a stinging blow to the Prime Minister because he wanted his candidate, Bridget Phillipson, to win. Lucy Powell will be a thorn in his side. Now, we know how bad this government is on the migrant crisis. Their one-in, one-out scheme has become a sort of national sick joke. It's just pathetic and baffling, and nobody can quite work out what it's supposed to be all about. A deterrent, it most certainly is not. But what the British people do want is some kind of firm resolution on this issue, plans to deter, plans to get to grips with it. We learn now that Lucy Powell, in her new exalted position, has told the Prime Minister to go softer on the migration crisis, on the migrant crisis. Now, if he heeds what she says and starts being even less full of resolution when it comes to the migrant crisis, the people aren't going to like that, are they?
Yeah, but this is, again, it's part of the problem, and we're going to be seeing a lot of this now. As I said, everybody in the Labour Party knows Keir Starmer is about to face a leadership challenge. It's only a matter of when. So what Lucy Powell and every other senior member of the Labour Party is starting to do is they're starting to lay the groundwork for that contest. It's an open secret that Lucy Powell is a close ally of Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham is a lot of people's current favourite to be to replace Keir Starmer. So she is simply starting to plough the road. And what you're going to be seeing from Lucy, from other senior members of Labour, is they're increasingly not going to be focusing on talking to the country, and they're increasingly going to be focusing on talking to Labour Party members. That is going to be part of the sort of the fracture that's going to start taking place in government over the next few months. And we're going to see that. We will see the various leadership candidates jockeying for position. We had Angela Rayner's supposed resignation speech in the Commons last week. It was basically the opening of a leadership pitch. Wes Streeting is going to increasingly, Wes Streeting, always seen as a moderniser, he is increasingly going to start adopting positions which align him more closely with Labour's base. We're going to get more interventions from Andy Burnham, again aligning himself with Labour's base, and the rest of the cabinet will start to go down this route as well. And what we're going to see is you're going to see Keir Starmer gradually simply decoupling from his own government and sort of drifting off to a position of political irrelevance as his party start to have the internal discussion about who's going to replace him.
Dan, excellent to talk to you. Love your work. Thank you very much for your time. That's Dan Hodges, commentator, columnist on the Mail on Sunday, Mail Online, Daily Mail. Read his stuff. It's very good. Now, a couple of messages. What have we got? Yeah, this is from G, as in G-E-E. G, second name Wiz, I assume. Ha, ha, ha. No, this is from G. Morning, Kevin. The demonstration in Tower Hamlets has been echoed all over England in cities and towns. Only a quick Google will bring up the mass praying on Brighton Beach or Manchester city centre. It is a show of dominance. Yeah, I mean, is that what they're doing here? I think it is a sort of message. Don't you mess with us. Tower Hamlets, this is us. This is our area. You don't come here telling us about the Islamification of Britain, because in this area it has been Islamified. Let me know what you think about that. 03444 991000. We will take a few calls in just a little while. And this is one from Jane. It's the royal one. Why do Harry and Meghan keep holding hands? My late hubby, he kept his hands in his pocket when we were out. Yeah, I get in trouble for that as well. Yeah, I don't like holding hands in public with anyone. What do we got here? This is from Dan in Hartlepool. This chap who was let out earlier. How long until we drip-fed the narrative that digital ID would have helped catch him quicker? You're so right. And by a brilliant coincidence, we're going to be talking about digital ID cards after this break. So stick around.
Well, I think it's too early to say that 1 in, 1 out isn't working. And in fact, the fact that
it isn't working. You've got someone who's come back. Someone's come back. It's not working.
The fact that he is in this country and has been detected is an example of the biometrics working. He's been apprehended. He will be deported, and the guy will have wasted a lot of his own money paying people.
He's wasted a lot of our money as taxpayers. He's wasted a heck of a lot of ours.
Word will soon get around that if you are coming to this country illegally, you will be dealt with and you will be deported.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is Morning Glory. I'm in for Mike Graham, and I've got about another 30 minutes to go. So stick around, folks. We're going to talk about the digital ID scheme now, the digital ID card that Keir Starmer is so keen on because Tony Blair told him to be keen on it. Lord Ashcroft, who is also a top pollster, he wrote a piece in the Mail. I was struck by the headline. It pretty much sums it up. He said, this ID card scheme is classic Starmer. It's expensive, intrusive and utterly pointless. What does it do that we don't already have? And why are they saying, well, you'll need this to use the NHS, doctors, social services, you know, the police will no doubt want you to show it. Well, why? We don't need it. We've got our passports for identification. We've got national insurance numbers for employment. We don't actually need this. This is just a socialist government that wants to keep control over the peasants, as in us. Let's talk to Alan Miller, co-founder of the Together Declaration. Morning, Alan. Before we talk, bear with us, if you will. Let's have a listen to Keir Starmer waxing lyrical about his wonderful digital ID card scheme.
So I'm in Brighton today. This is Barclays Bank, and I've been talking to customers about digital ID, and they're really enthusiastic. It'll have your basic information on it. For everything other than proving you've got a right to work, it won't be mandatory. You don't have to have it, but you can have it. You can use it for anything that requires identification, and there are lots of things. If you want to rent, for example, if you want to apply for a mortgage, if you want to get your child into primary school, there's a catchment area, and you've got to show where you live, proving who you are, what your date of birth is, will just be able to be done with digital ID. They're really up for it, and I think once you understand just how much easier it'll make life, so many more people will be too.
Well, Alan, there he is saying, it's totally voluntary, you don't really need it. And then he runs through all these things, getting a mortgage, going to a bank account, you know, using social services, the NHS, the doctors. In other words, what he said, you don't really need it, it's voluntary. And then he basically reels off all the reasons why, unless you have this card, you won't be able to function in this country. He's going to make it absolutely compulsory. And as Lord Ashcroft says, we don't need it. Do we? Well, there's no reason for this card at all, except for a socialist government that classically Soviet style wants to keep tabs on the peasants, as in us, right?
Yeah, good morning, Kevin. I mean, I think it's absolutely the case that it's not needed a centralised database surveying biometrics state. It's interesting that he says it's utterly pointless, Lord Ashcroft, because actually there is a point to it, which is precisely those things, precisely the ability to track and survey and snoop and spy and limit and censor. And we only have to look at what's been going on in the last 5 years to see them doing that already. It's not like even the prospect of those things, everything from two-tier policing to being put in prison for some social media posts, not others, from the debanking scandal based on particular views, right through to data breaches and all of the concerns around that. He's also gone even further, Kevin. He's like that abuser that says, well, you better get ready, you don't have to do it, but this is what we're going to do to you. It's my way or the highway, saying it's going to cost you £85 each time you have to do something, but, you know, it's up to you. Threats, nudges, coercion. But yet, this government doesn't have any solutions to the very real problems people are facing on a daily basis. The questions around the economy, 30,000 businesses gone down under his tenure. The fact that the issues with our borders, the question around how we organise our health, we're now being told even more taxes, and by the way, it's not going to be able to be paid for. We have to discuss all these issues, how to get a thriving, dynamic economy, but they're bereft of ideas, and instead alongside the Tony Blair Institute, they present this silver bullet. The problem is, Kevin, even though people are talking about the digital ID cards, which is really essential, the BRIC card, as Labour Together call it, they've been pushing for some time the one login system. And the one login system is the verification that they've been getting people onto. And that's the thing that's already had whistleblowers around it, and that the government UK digital wallet sits on top of. And we're very concerned. And that's why our campaign has been saying, like, around directors, no to forcing 8 million directors onto this. We've got an open letter and a petition. And the same with veterans, no to using veterans as guinea pigs, or our kids for the children wellbeing school bill. And that we push back together, that we get everyone in the public, your viewers, your listeners, to say, we don't want this, we don't need this. And to say we're not going to have it, right? And to let our councillors and our MPs know there's May elections, and say, you know, depending on what your position is on digital ID will be our vote, and really have a kind of tsunami reaction and response, because they're not going to be able to ignore us if we say we're not doing it. We've got toolkits about how to challenge this for directors, and to have a real big pushback, because the alternative is one where these technocrats who don't have any solutions for us are constantly surveying and nudging and pushing us, and we have to have some kind of verification to participate in British life. And our forefathers fought against any of that, so did our veterans, and it's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's it. There's no excuse for this that makes any sense. There's nothing this card will achieve for us that we can't achieve right now without it. There is no reason for it except for a government that wants to keep tabs on us. They say, well, you can't get a job without it, you know, from now on. Well, what way is that different to the fact you can't get a job right now unless you've got a national insurance number? You know, oh, you can't get a bank account now without it. Well, or a mortgage. Well, in what way is that different to what we have to do now? Give in our passports, give in identification. Nothing about this makes any logical sense. There is no reason for it apart from, I think, a socialist government that wants to keep tabs on us. It's all about control, and you know what it's going to lead to. They talk about mortgages, bank accounts, using the NHS, doctors, so on, and social services. You're going to need it for all of that. And here's the other thing you're going to need it for, Alan. It's going to be, from now on, if we get these damn things, and for God's sake, let's keep resisting it, but if we get them, the first thing a copper will say to you when he pulls you up is, show us your paper, show me your papers, you know, your papers, please. It'll turn this country, it's an assault on traditional British freedom. It's not British. We don't want to be a papers, please dystopia. It's going to be, show me your papers, please. There seems to be some sort of discrepancy. Come with me, please. That's what we're talking about, and we don't want that, do we?
Well, exactly right. I mean, it's always dressed up in terms of safety and convenience, keeping you safe, keeping children safe, keeping the borders safe, or it's all just really convenient. Don't get the bill out of the drawer, and don't get that pesky passport. Here's a very convenient, easy way. And, you know, everything from verification to logging onto the internet and around the Online Safety Act and those questions, to all of these points, you know, around benefits, around childcare, around pensions, taxation. We know that the Department of Work and Pensions already created in a situation where they can go in to our bank accounts, civil servants, unelected, snooping, taking money out. Liz Kendall was overseeing that. The whole idea that you have to prove who you are to participate in British society is unacceptable. And that's why we really encourage people to come to togetherdeclaration.org to get involved. We've got rallies around the country, we've got events around the country, we're flyering, we're talking to councillors and MPs. We want the public to push back together on this and to give a resounding no to this. And we've also got a digital bill of rights that says we must have the option to not participate in this, to opt out of anything, and that we ring-fence protections, like we have warrants to go into people's houses or to look at their mail, in the same way that we have protections in the digital arena, but no to a centralised biometric surveillance state. Anyone who's concerned, just look back at the last few years. And we can do this, right? In Britain, we can shine a light internationally. We've got a very unique situation here And so what we do, what your listeners and viewers do, Kevin, will really count.
Well, our listeners, I think our audience are with me on this, and you. This isn't British. It doesn't achieve anything. We don't need it. This is for the government. It's not for us. And we're not falling for any of this nonsense about, oh, it'll make life so much more convenient. It won't. It won't. Also, we're going to no doubt have to give in all our information, and then the government database will get hacked by Putin, and God knows what the ramifications of that will be. Alan, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. That's the great Alan Miller, co-founder of the Together Declaration. What do you think? Digital ID cards. Huge petition, 3 million people. That is a massive petition. People don't want this. The government began its policy by saying there's growing support for digital ID cards. And then they found out that there are only about 33% of the people sort of thought they might be an idea, maybe, okay. And then as soon as it became a reality, that plummeted from 34%, I think it was, who were broadly in favour of the idea, to minus 14%. So they can't say there is growing support. There is no support for this. Got a couple of texts on it. This is from Robert. I won't be partaking in digital ID, and I will give up my phone if necessary. Not a problem, because of course it will be intertwined with your mobile phones as well. What we got here? The government squandered. This is from Stephen. The government squandered £37 billion on a simple test and trace app during COVID, which never worked. Anyone who thinks they have the competence to introduce digital ID needs their head examined. Yeah, saying that this government, this government, I wouldn't trust them to run a bath. Running a digital ID scheme, you just know it's a disaster. Stephen's right. Their test and trace app during COVID was an absolute joke, a disaster. So good point, Stephen. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the BBC with Amy Gallagher. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Running out of time, only 20 minutes still to go. Then the great Julia Hartley-Brewer will take over the helm of the Good Ship Talk. She'll be in a little while to tell you what she's got lined up for her show. That will go on from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Then it's Ian Collins, then Jeremy Kyle. And then at 7 o'clock, it's me, Kevin O'Sullivan. Oh no, I won't be doing that because I'm doing this show, aren't I? Was going to be me. I think it's Samara Gill, my excellent producer. So she'll be standing in for me. Very tough job for her. Very tough job. Now let's go over to my next guest, shall we? She is a commentator at the New Culture Forum, former NHS nurse, Amy Gallagher. Hello, Amy.
Hi, Kevin. You're right.
Yeah, good to see you. I thought about you when I saw this story. The BBC, I mean, it seems to sort of basically let nearly all of its staff work from home, but it's specifically now allowing staff to work from home if they are worried about the BBC's trans lavatory policy, which presumably is to let everybody go into every single loo. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? We've had this Supreme Court ruling, and politicians across the political spectrum, including Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting, have all said, you know, this is the new ruling, sex means biological sex, and workplaces should be providing single-sex spaces. We've even had the Equality and Human Rights Commission publishing interim guidance saying that this is what workplaces need to do. And yet the BBC doesn't want to do it. I don't know if it's just cowardice. I don't know if it's that they're worried about transgender activists. I mean, they're claiming that they're waiting for the final guidance to come through, and it's going to go through Parliament. But I mean, the interim guidance is very clear, and this isn't rocket science. It's just providing single-sex spaces. It's not. You don't need reams and reams of guidance in order to do it. And the idea that you would say to people, if you don't like the fact that we're being cowardly on this issue, you can just work from home. I mean, working from home was an emergency measure brought in under COVID, right? And we've never really gotten over that for some reason. In the public sector, lots of people now work from home. We're actually one of the worst in Europe for working from home. And, we never used to do that before COVID. But the idea that because a public sector doesn't want to enforce a Supreme Court ruling that sex means biological sex, therefore you can work from home. It's just absurd. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, it really is. It's the BBC saying, although the Supreme Court has effectively told us we must have separate loos, separate private spaces for men and women, biological men and women. We, the national state broadcaster that the public pay for, aren't going to go along with that. We're going to defy the Supreme Court's ruling and not provide separate safe spaces for women and men. And if you don't like that, you'll have to work from home. It's crazy.
It's crazy, and this is our public broadcaster. They're supposed to be, impartial, and yet they don't even want to enforce, the law. Essentially, they're more to the left, or they're more woke than the Labour Party at this point. And it's very interesting. There was a recent nationwide survey conducted by the BBC asking people, their opinion of it. And one of the things that came through is that a large proportion of people felt that it was too politically correct, that it was obsessed with diversity, and it needed to dial down and be more impartial. The director, Tim Davis, said that we're taking this on board and we're going to thinking about what to do about it. But they're clearly not, because their policies behind the scenes are, as I said, more woke than the Labour Party. So they don't care about what the licence fee paying people think. Actually, they just want to go ahead and push woke policies, indefinitely, it seems.
It's really crazy. Let's go slightly off piste. I know you haven't prepared for this, but I think it's an interesting topic. Brigitte Macron, the president's wife, Emmanuel Macron's wife, Brigitte. I couldn't care less whether she's a biological male or not, but it does seem to be the issue of the moment. Some hackers have got into her tax returns, apparently, and turned her sex, her gender, to male on her tax forms. All very upsetting for her. Candace Owens, the American YouTuber, huge following, millions of people watch her. She did a series saying that Brigitte Macron was born a man, was born biologically male. Obviously, Brigitte denies this, so does the president. They deny it so much so, they've now launched legal action against Brigitte, against Candace Owens, for saying that Brigitte Macron is basically a bloke. And so they go. So Brigitte Macron's. This is what I want to ask you, Amy. Just what you think about this. Brigitte Macron's going, I've got pictures. I can prove. I've got photographs of when I was at school. Photographs. I've got records. I've got documents. Why doesn't she just say, I will undergo a chromosome test? I mean, that's it takes 5 minutes. That will establish. Yeah. Why doesn't she do that?
I guess the only reason I can think of, I mean, I do agree. I mean, this whole issue it must be horrible for her that this is constantly in the press, you know. And as you say, if she could just stop it, you know, you wonder why she wouldn't. I guess that the only thing I can think of is that it's a matter of principle, that she's saying, well, why should I have to? Because I guess if she has to, then maybe, you know, anybody could be accused of being trans, and then do we all have to, you know, undergo a chromosome test? So maybe she's just thinking, well, I shouldn't have to do this. But I think what's happened with both of them is that their pushback against this, the Macrons, I mean, as kind of backfired, because they are getting so much publicity about this. If they had just ignored Candice, or if they had just maybe, you know, quietly submitted some evidence or something like that, but because they've been digging their heels in so much, it's caused such a media storm around that, where there is now mounting pressure on her to prove her sex, and yeah, it's a very strange story, you know. And you know, like I said, Candice Owens gets lots and lots of views, so I think, you know, from their perspective, I guess they felt that they needed to respond to it. But you know, the fact that it's ended up with a lawsuit is and she could just prove it, I guess.
Yeah.
But
well, that's the thing. The thing is, Amy, she sued Candice Owens, obviously in America. Now, if this goes to court, the American system will just say, well, Bridge, you've got to take a test. We can prove this.
So she can't avoid it. If she's going via the legal route, she's going to have this kind of test done anyway. So you do wonder why she would not, you know, waste all the time and energy and money going through a lawsuit when she could just prove it now. But I guess maybe she was wondering that if she doesn't do that, there'll conspiracy theories all arise, and people will say, well, she didn't really submit a chromosome test, and if she does it via the legal route, it will be kind of proper and above board. I don't know, but it's a very strange story.
It sure as hell is. It's very strange. Amy, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Amy Gallagher, brilliant woman, commentator at the New Culture Forum. We're going to go to break next, and next up, we'll take a couple of your calls, and we'll play our favourite bit of the entire show, the really good bit. Shouldn't take too long. That'll be next, so stick around.
The town itself, the little village, it's suddenly grown by a quarter of its population. It has only 5,000 residents there, and in the hotel there are about 1,200 asylum seekers who are living in this hotel. And so all the residents who were there protesting, they were saying to me, we have felt a real strain on public services. I've spoken to people whose children have now had to go to separate schools miles away because of the the growing of the population.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, it's been a great show. Thank you very much for your company. We'll be back for the rest of the week. As I say, Mike Graham is still on leave. You know why. We just have to wait, folks. In the meantime, it's time now to look back on some highlights of today's show. It's been very difficult to find any, but we have come up with a couple, seriously. First of all, Sarah Poshin has apologised. She is the Reform UK MP, of course, for Runcorn. She's apologised for statements she made on Talk over the weekend, talking to my colleague Peter Cardwell. She said she was sick to death of watching these TV adverts that were full of black and Asian people. She said that she didn't phrase that well. Now, this was seized upon by the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, as he did the media rounds yesterday. Here he is waxing lyrical about Sarah's comments on Talk over the weekend.
I think what she said was a disgrace. I think it was racist, and the deafening silence from her party leader says it all. Reform is a party who think that our flag only belongs to some of us who look like me, not all of us who have built this country, built its success.
Thank you, Wes. I don't look like you. I hope I don't, anyway. Right, let's... the other highlight, which is right at the beginning of the show, 7 o'clock, actually, 7 a.m. God, all those hours ago. Let's get up at like 3:30 in the morning to do this show. My God. It takes me back. Right, this is Peter Blexley, the former Met Police detective, talking about the debacle, the shambles, the humiliation, the embarrassment of the migrant prison release. Check it out.
A friend of mine who lives in America contacted me yesterday and said, Peter, what is going on with your country? He said, over here, he said, you're a laughing stock. He said, you can't even keep your prisoners behind bars. And I said, no, it's deeply, deeply embarrassing. And so it goes. The reputation of this once great nation is being shredded around the globe through incompetency. And while I'm talking about incompetency, let me start my role of dishonour with regards to this pathetic saga. Lord Timpson, Prisons Minister, what's he been doing? David Lammy, Justice Minister. Is it any surprise? Shabana Mahmood, Home Secretary, up until recently, the Justice Minister. They've all got this embarrassment all over their hands, and it truly is a disgrace. And to hear Lammy yesterday, as you rightly pointed out, heaping praise upon law enforcement, the public found him, the public called this in, the public put his time on the run to an end. The police quite simply responded to a 999 call where somebody said, he's here, come and get him. It was about as a challenging police and policework as going to the post office and picking up a parcel.
If this guy was being released properly, surely he wouldn't still be wearing his prison-grade tracksuit, would he?
What happens with short-term prisoners is they are often released in the clothes they were wearing when they were arrested. But of course, if that clothing has been seized for forensic examination and not returned, sometimes they do have to walk out of the gates in prison clothing. But often charities will try to provide them with clothing, because the last thing you really want is to walk out of a prison saying to the wider public, here I am, I've just been released. Although sometimes with carrying clear plastic bags or a prison issue holdall, for example, is a sign that people in the know will readily appreciate that person's just been released from prison.
What should they have done to catch him earlier?
Well, first of all, here's a question that I don't know the answer to. Where did Kabatu get this money from? The money apart from the £76. Let's face it, he is an illegal immigrant. He came to this country in breach of Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971, which makes him fundamentally, irrevocably, an illegal immigrant. So he couldn't work. So where did that cash come from, I wonder? Maybe that's a question somebody else can answer. But in regards to the manhunt, they knew he'd got on a train, so they would have picked up the CCTV thread from there. That was really their start point. And what you have between a fugitive and your team is an imaginary piece of string that you're forever trying to shorten as you get closer and closer to the fugitive. Of course, on Saturday...
The brilliant Peter Bexley actually summing up to perfection the fiasco we've witnessed over this weekend with the release of that Ethiopian migrant. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Let's quickly talk to Danny in London. Hello, Danny.
Good morning, sir. I'd like to make a comment on what David Lammy said. This illegal immigrant is going to be deported this week, yeah?
Yes.
Well, it just shows you that if they really want to deport them, they can deport them. You've got 10,000 in the prison. They could deport every one of those when they come out, but they won't do it, will they?
No, Danny, I saw, we get a little précis of what the calls are about. I saw your call, and it's a brilliant point. Suddenly, we're going to deport this guy. He's gone. Yeah, no, he's going to go tomorrow. Why can't they do that with the rest of the prisoners? What on earth, a really good point, Danny. Wish I could talk longer, but the show's almost over and Julia Hartley-Brewer's in the room.
Hello.
No man waits for Julia Hartley-Brewer. Danny, good to talk, keep in touch. Hi, Julia.
I tell you what, my husband definitely does wait for me putting the slap on a Saturday night. What can I say?
Yeah, and that's for you. Wow, what a day. What are you going to be covering?
Well, obviously, the utter madness of this Epping migrant. It's the fact that he was standing outside the prison going, where do I go and back in?
Yeah, but four or five times he went back in, and in the end, prison officer, this was witness, got really angry and said, look, for God's sake, will you go? The station's down there on the left, get out of it.
You couldn't make this up. Lammy's obviously going to, face the hairdryer on that. But obviously, this new report by MPs about, again, tell us something we don't know, they're wasting money. What is it about government that they cannot do a single basic contract? I swear to you, a teenager could do a contract better than them.
They're civil servants, they work at the Home Office, probably most of them
their money.
have never worked in the private sector before, and they've had rings run round them.
But I'd love to be selling them a used car, or frankly even a Mars bar. They probably pay twice as much for a Mars bar than they need to.
They would pay £1 million for a 50-year-old Morris Minor.
They really would. Well, we're going to talk about that. Sarah Poachin, we're going to be talking about West Streeting, we're going to be talking about Workers' Rights Bill. Prince Andrew. 2 homes, please.
And also Tower Hamlets, I hope.